Greetings, fellow Amblemites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wile 2.
And welcome to the 6th season of Spielberg Month.
Hey, the month was actually kind of in sync.
Since Steven Spielberg doesn't do audio commentary on his own work, we thought we'd do it for him. After all he's done for us, it's the least we could do for him. Since we're getting near the end of Spielberg's vast catalog and want to keep the party going as long as we can, this month features a duo of historical Spielberg epics with a couple tributes along the way. So, let us board a boat. So let us board La Amistad and sail into a sea of history as gripping as Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln. Let's roll film on Spielberg and ride our bikes to the green planet. It's time for another season of Spielberg Month. All right. 2.5 hour movie. Okay.
You know, way to just rain on the whole ET idea of yours, by the way. So every time we get to, we've no time for the ET thing. Great. Just, yeah.
I got to keep the ET thing fresh, Dragon. All right.
Yeah, fresh by not doing it except for once this season, sure.
Okay, so Lincoln. Guys, I'm just going to. I don't know how y'all feel about this movie. I think it is one of Spielberg's most understated accomplishments. I really think the acting in this film, just on all accounts, is just jaw-dropping. I mean, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis, but we'll get into it throughout the film, but I honestly don't even think Daniel Day-Lewis is the best performance, per se. I would give that to Sally Fields. I think this whole movie is like a who's who. It's like, I couldn't believe that not only was Adam Driver in the movie, he has a big role in the frickin' trailer. It's like who isn't in this movie? So I appreciate some of the frustration of it's a courtroom movie, but you know what? It's like Amistad is a courtroom movie. Like, I think this is exactly this is a great counterpoint to Amistad for me, because I really think that what this does is it gives us just such an intimate portrait into the man. And it's unlike any Spielberg that we've ever seen before or since in that regard. And I feel like kind of like the lifelong passion project of Steven Spielberg to do this movie, which I vividly remember actually, rumors floating around about this movie, like as far back as the early 2000s about Spielberg wanting to do it and Daniel Day-Lewis specifically being involved. Like Day-Lewis went all the way back. So I've seen this movie I've only seen it one time before we did research on this. And I gotta say, the one time I saw it, I was, I really liked it. I wasn't entirely blown away. I was more blown away by the performances more than anything else. But I gotta tell you, revisiting it, not only did all the best moments really hold up, and I just had all these flashes of oh yeah, I remember this moment. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh, this is, I don't know. I think it's a very dense movie. I understand that it's a challenging sit. I feel like because of how immersive the Lincoln performance is, it can get a little tiresome. Like, there's the one moment of fourth wall breaking almost, where it's like, oh God, if you start another speech, another story. But I don't know. We'll talk about it, man. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Okay, Jacob.
Okay, I guess I'll go next then.
Yeah,
I have a bit of an interesting history with this particular movie. I mean, granted, this is technically the second or third time I've ever seen this. But what's interesting to me is that it came out in a very interesting part in my life. My senior year of high school, technically, and the capstone project that we did was sponsored by a group of Lincoln presenters. How would actually their name? The Society of Lincoln Presenters, or something along those lines. Basically, people who like dress up as Abraham Lincoln and spread the word about him.
Uh-huh.
So Lincoln Mormons.
I guess, but
Would you like to buy a log cabin?
anyway, like, and one of the things we did to prepare for this, I mean, there are like some funny anecdotes that I might get into throughout the movie, but I'm not gonna load them up front. But one of the things we did to prepare for this was, as a class, to go see this movie. And they actually rented out the theater for us, including the Lincoln presenters and the class itself, to go see this.
Nice.
And it was actually quite. I actually really enjoyed it, seeing it with my peers, and we had an involving discussion afterwards, and it influenced a lot of what we did.
All right, so Dragon.
All right, look, I want to like this movie, I really do, but personally, just again, emphasis on the personally. Personally, this film ranks low on the Spielberg totem pole for me. Now, I want to be clear. It's not bad, but to me, it's bloated with a stellar Daniel Day-Lewis performance. The movie has it's a movie with its moments and its standouts, no question, but it's got a lot of waiting and speechifying without quite the investing hook I was hoping for. And I mean, it doesn't really get investing for me until Act 3. I think Act 3 is the movie I wanted to see from the start, but it takes a long time to get there and set that up. And it's not exactly a short wait time getting there. You know, I just wish I was just more enthralled and just kind of getting from point A to point B. But point C has its moments where it sings for sure. So I mean, basically, folks, upon this rewatch, after several rewatches in preparation for this, I like this movie as much as I'm going to. Okay, that's as much as I can tell you. I like it as much as I'm gonna. Still not a love fest, but the movie has its qualities I can't fly in the face of, but it ain't the gold tier for Spielberg, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
Yeah.
All right, Dragon, let's fly through the background on this.
The background's simple. All right. Okay, so this is a loose adaptation of Doris Kearns Goodwin's book Team of Rivals that she wrote in 2005. Now, long story short, Spielberg has been dying to make a Lincoln movie for so long. He bought the rights to the book before she even wrote the book, just to show you how invested he was in this. Seriously, like, he worked with her on a project of historical accuracy, and basically said, "Hey, I'm going to write a book on Lincoln. I want to buy the rights to it." Wait, really? Yes. I want to make this movie. So he did like 12 years of research for the film. Again, as you said, Tiki, roughly like since 2000, he's been aching to do this. He got Tony Kushner, the writer on Munich, to write the movie and adapt the book, essentially.
Who's also doing the upcoming West Side Story.
Mm-hmm. Spielberg, as it was intimated, Spielberg wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to be Lincoln. He wanted him very much so, but Daniel Day-Lewis was very intimidated by Lincoln's iconic status. He really didn't want to do it. He wrote a very pleasant, really cordial, lovely rejection letter to Spielberg saying, "Look, I'm so flattered you thought of me for this role, but I can't do this, man. It's too big. I simply can't do it." A lot more flowery than that because he's Daniel Day-Lewis, but just go with me on it. So he goes to the next best option, who also would have been an awesome Lincoln, Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson was set to play the role. He was to play Lincoln. He did gobs of research, 4 years worth of research, as Neeson is wont to do. But the problem is, the movie took so long to get ready in a scripting process. Like, it was supposed to go at 2006, but again, the script wasn't there. They had to nail down the whole 4-month timeline thing. And the other thing was Paramount. Paramount originally, they were more involved in the movie. They were dragging their feet because they were worried it was going to be another Amistad, which basically, good a movie as it was, did not do Spielberg money that they were hoping for, which eventually leads to DreamWorks and Fox, really kind of picking up the weight. So Neeson left the role. He says because, again, the movie took so long, he just aged out of the Lincoln role. He was 58 by the time they were actually ready to shoot the movie, and Lincoln is like 55 in the movie. Now, I think that's like 5 years, really. We can make up a way.
Really not much of a stretch, honestly.
You know what I'm saying? We see 5 years standing on their heads in Better Call Saul. That's TV.
Sally Hawkins was 10 years older than Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's exactly my point. Now, the speculated reason that
and
Neeson
not to mention makeup and prosthetics.
Yes.
Right.
Now, the speculated reason as to why Neeson didn't take the role is that he was grieving his wife who passed the year before. So that was assumedly
that's totally fair. That's different.
I believe that to be the real reason as well.
I mean, especially given how intense the marriage stuff is in this movie.
Exactly. So I have no fault at all with him for why he would not do the role. I think he was kind of like a BS Hollywood reason of I'm too old for it now. That's not the reason. Lincoln's always been perpetually old. Look at that beard.
I think one of the lines in the movie is you looked 1 year ago, you look 10 years younger than you are now.
Exactly. It's a president. Presidents age out, so I call BS on Neeson's reason. But again, I respect the fact he didn't want to do the movie because he put the work in. He was going to do it. Right. So last thing we'll jump right into. So DiCaprio is actually the reason we got Daniel Day-Lewis. He convinced him to take on the role.
Oh, right, from Gangs of New York. Yeah.
Yep, and of course that leads him to go full. Daniel Day-Lewis goes full method. We call him Mr. President on set. You know how that goes. And 3.5 months shoot later, and film campaign wins the Oscar. The first actor to get an Oscar for a Spielberg movie. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, so just to set up the commentary here, folks, we're going to do our level best to make it a discussion. I honestly think we've been doing a good job of that through the commentaries we've been doing this month. Not only the Spielberg one, but also the Muppet Caper. I think they've both been good discussions. So, but if you want to follow along, go ahead and get your copy. Set it to timestamp 00. If you're just watching a DVD or something like that. Now, this is important, guys. This is a distinction.
Yes.
If you're watching it on HBO Max, we're going to skip over the HBO logo. So I want you to do, if you do happen to be watching along with us and you watch on HBO Max in particular, I know this is a very niche thing, but I realize this is probably why, if anyone does want to watch along with us, this is probably the way to do it. The most accessible way, at least. Go ahead and set your timestamp to 5 seconds.
Right at the top of the Touchstone logo, either a black screen or the Touchstone logo. Because apparently that black screen is it's non-existent now for some reason.
Dragon, I know, it's actually crazy.
I know, so just go to the touch, the moment that lightning strikes for the Touchstone logo, just pause it at 5 seconds.
And I'm in a browser. It's basically right when the PG-13 rating pops up.
Sure. Yeah, well, you're right. That's true too.
All right. So, guys, you ready to just jump right into it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Spielberg commentary in 1, 2, 3, go! Wait. Oh my God, guys.
What?
Wow. I literally almost... Go back to 5 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, wait 5 seconds.
I was distracted by my fucking Tommy Lee Jones voice, and
yeah,
I very nearly almost pushed stop bar and broadcast instead of pushing play. It didn't happen, but it nearly did.
Hold on, because your little storytelling here, I gotta get it linked up. Hold on, let me make sure I know how to do this exactly. I gotta go out and go back.
I'm sorry. I'm just glad I avoided that.
Okay, let me exit out too, because
guys, if you press play, go ahead and go back to 5 seconds in.
This HBO thing's killing me. I can't get it exactly. Touchstone.
Okay.
Just timestamp 5 seconds, Dragon. It's not
all
perfect.
Right.
All right.
Okay, for some reason mine freezes it. Mine is freezing at HBO.
All right, I just got it 5 seconds. We're just going to hope for the best. All right, just hope for the best.
Wait, Jacob, yours is freezing on HBO?
Yeah, but if I restart it, it'll basically resume with the Touchstone logo. So just
that's the thing. If you go out of the window and you go back in, the point being we're at 5 seconds.
Okay, well,
okay.
I'll take your guys' word for it. Okay. All right, Lincoln in 1, 2, 3, go.
All right.
All right, guys.
There we go. Got the Touchstone.
Yes.
I think inarguably the most iconic Touchstone movie of all time is Nightmare Before Christmas.
I would concur with that.
Yep.
That's just me.
What about Roger Rabbit?
Roger Rabbit is a very close second, but I think Nightmare Before Christmas has permeated more through pop culture.
Well, technically, it's not even branded as Touchstone anymore, though.
All right.
We're off
I
to a
know,
great
but I
start.
grew up with the VHS, so.
And also Fox. So technically now both of these companies are Disney properties.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta weave the Disney in somewhere, guys, because it's going to be kind of a dry conversation. All right. I gotta be honest with you guys. I'm not sure how I feel. This is an interesting conversation to kind of start out with. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about having any battle footage at all.
Here's the thing. I love the second time we do it. So we kind of tee up a full circle thing. We're at the brutal Civil War thing. It's basically we're seeing glimpsing the war that's going on, and I think the aftermath was stronger. Like
Are
when we
you
have
talking
Lincoln.
the scene that involves Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, he's in that scene, but yeah, like we wrap up the war and we have Lincoln on horseback later. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
I love. So basically, we open with a scene of Lincoln right after we see the brutal battle at the top here, and then we do it later with the aftermath.
My
All these soldiers being dead.
battle is it feels like this is never, as much as I like this movie, this battle has never really sat all that right with me, just because it's so quick.
I see it as kind of like it's like a bookend. Like the front end, and the second one is a bookend that leads into the epilogue.
Yeah.
Sure.
I see where you're coming from, though. I mean, Spielberg's obviously no stranger to war movies, so I mean, but it kind of like has like
it is pretty brutal looking at it though. Like
part of me wonders.
it almost kind of like reminds me of the opening of Saving Private Ryan, but obviously less high tech.
It's way less high scale than that.
Yeah,
but I love this opening sequence. And Dragon, goddamn it, you heartless monster. I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I'm sorry. I love you, Dragon. But you cannot tell me that this scene does not move you.
I love folksy Lincoln in the scene. I love like when he's talking about the barber and everything. That's what I like about the scene. And I also I don't know. You know what's funny though is with the brutality of the Civil War stuff we just glimpsed. I like that's kind of them like we know we kind of a dry sit here, so we got to load some of that up for the folks. Like
That's
Civil War reaction
setting. Like about it, it almost kind of feels like, all right, guys, like here's your rush of endorphins before we go into this.
I have no real feelings about that one way or another. I'm just kind of noticing. I think that's why we have that scene in there. Is they kind of like it's a little bit of action. It's a Civil War. We got to show that little reenactment stuff. Yeah.
It kind of also establishes the mood.
Let me tell you what I do like about this scene, though. I think it's really smart to showcase, essentially the colored infantry, aka the black Union soldiers. I think that's something we rarely show with the Civil War. I thought that was kind of a good note.
The first time we see Lincoln, I love that we do kind of take some time to reveal the face.
Yeah,
and, I feel like it's a classic Spielberg build-up, right?
Yeah, it is. Sure. Also, I got a note here. Corporal Clark loves interrupting people. Just going to put that in there. I mean, this guy, trying to actually ask him other questions, getting in there.
One of these guys is Daniel Oyelowo, right?
Yeah.
Or David Oyelowo, I think.
Oyelowo, I think so.
I believe it's the guy on the right. Okay, so yes, I really love the image of Lincoln. I've always read something about the fact that he's in the rain, but he's slightly covered from the rain.
Yeah, he's under the tarp or whatever.
Right, so he's in the thick of it with these soldiers, but he's framed only slightly above them, but he's still on level with them. There's a lot to read into with this framing. Dragon, like you said, I really appreciate the fact that the first time we see Lincoln, he's talking with the black soldiers and being very, very on level with them.
Yeah,
which is also he was also a very tall man, especially in real life too.
By the way, we're seeing gentlemen, a very young Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, so this is the start of the star-studdedness begins already. There's Dane DeHaan.
Right.
Or like future star-studdedness.
Well, fine.
In some cases, it's
weird.
It's a
kind of a big
mix
star
of future star-studdedness and then it's Hal Holbrook.
Yeah. So, something I do want to address here. I think a big part of this opening is the fact that we're getting the whole Gettysburg Address out of the way, the most famous Lincoln thing ever. 7 years. We're having other people doing it for him, so we don't have to hear Daniel Day-Lewis.
This is one of my favorite parts of Daniel Day-Lewis's research into Lincoln, is how a big insight into, oh, by the God, I love this shot so much. I love this shot so much. It's one of my favorite shots in the movie. The framing of this, how he's standing over him, but they're still. I could go on forever about the framing of this scene, man.
Well, you're getting at is you really love the majority of Daniel Day-Lewis's research is Lincoln testimonials and accounts like this.
Yes,
one, which
thank you, Dragon. Thank you. And we're very much getting that in this opening. God, I love this shot so much. I'm sorry.
No, it's it's a good silhouette.
It's funny because it's like other Spielberg movies,
shot.
It's like you have the Saving Private Ryan action scene or the Raiders action scene or shoot but that right there might be one of my favorite Spielberg cold opens. Just because, like I said, I could just write an essay about just all the intricacies of how it's filmed and how it's shot and the layers of the blocking. Oh God, it's so good.
I'd argue the point of that whole scene, again, with him quoting his speech to him, is so we can legitimize the Lincoln speech that ends the movie.
Totally. All right, so let's get into this nightmare.
The dream, or the nightmare, I guess more accurately. So the dream description.
Stylistically, I'm not really a fan of it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? It signifies, Lincoln feels, he's kind of alone in his goal here. It's kind of the point of it. And also, we're after the scene, based on the conversation with Mary Todd here, she's, we're foreshadowing the Lincoln assassination with the whole. She's a little traumatized by what she perceives as like there was an attempted hit on her. But on him that would have gotten her.
So, guys, you know what I am a fan of?
Sally Fields?
Well, yes, but more specifically, relationship drama. And here we go. Dragon, this to me, this and the Tommy Lee Jones arc, they are the hook for me. Like, I vividly remember the first time I saw this film, I was a little skeptical going in. I was like, okay, I get that it's going to be kind of like a historical kind of textbook piece. I get that I knew that it was going to be mostly a courtroom drama, right? And I was kind of prepared for, by the way, I love this little Daniel Day-Lewis raising his hand. I do.
God.
I mean, just little nuances like that. But anyways, the marriage drama, the palatable marriage drama, it really got me hooked. It really got me invested right away, really early on.
So, something about Sally Fields. I just want to get in there. She really campaigned and begged for this role because of the age difference. It was a real uphill battle for once they learned that Daniel Day-Lewis was cast, and she had to basically beg Spielberg to test her, you just put me in a room with him and just give me an audition, and she passed with flying colors.
Yeah.
And it got her the role. I got to tell you, though, I mean, we'll get to it later. I think Tommy Lee Jones, I think he outshined Sally Fields for me in the movie between the two of them.
Oh, I would not argue with that, honestly. I think most people would agree Tommy Lee Jones kind of steals the film.
Yeah.
It's honestly a shame he didn't get a supporting actor nomination.
That is a shame, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that being kind of a snub this year, for sure.
I remember the 2012 Oscars. That was the year Seth MacFarlane hosted.
Oh, God, right. It was.
And we have, there was a gag at the top of it, and my quest to make Tommy Lee Jones laugh begins.
I just remember that year I was really bitter that Moonrise Kingdom was my favorite film of the year, and it didn't get nominated for anything.
Right.
And then the next year it was like, hey, we've got this this really good Wes Anderson movie that's not nearly as personally resident as Moonrise Kingdom, and that's going to get nominated for a bunch of Oscars.
Yeah. You'll notice Sally Fields, she put on 25 pounds for the role to get that old lady physique, and she.
Yeah, man. I don't know. The thing about this film that I really, really respect, and I just think it's kind of a tightrope act, and obviously it doesn't work for everyone. And Dragon, I want to just say right now, don't feel bad about your opinion on this film. I want to get that in there, because I honestly think, just for the sake of the podcast, and of course just for the sake of just general film dialect, I am a huge champion of subjectivity, obviously. So, Dragon, I honestly think it's super valuable that different perspectives on this. Jacob's coming into it more as kind of having a school memory attached to it and an educational foundation with it. I'm coming into it more as a kind of someone who really followed it from the production point of view. And Dragon, you're coming into it more as just kind of a general Spielberg fan. And this is not like a general kind of Spielberg movie. It is a very different kind of Spielberg movie. I think all three of our takes are very valid. I just want to put that out there.
Didn't we once discuss like there's like Spielberg movies and movies directed by
we've mentioned that before on previous commentaries, yes.
Like which one would you categorize this as?
A Spielberg movie directed by Steven Spielberg.
Well, wait to blur the lines, Tiki. But
does that make any sense though?
I don't know, Tiki. That one's a little blurry.
All right, fine. It's a movie directed by Steven Spielberg.
I mean, I'd like to hear you out on it, but it's a little. I don't know.
The only argument I'd have for it's a Spielberg film is the fact that it is such a passion project.
Yeah, because of that,
I kind of Spielberg movie, but
in that regard, because he saw this thing from like cradle to.
That's what I'm saying. But then again, I almost kind of feel like I kind of have the same argument with Schindler's List, where Schindler's List, don't get me wrong, obviously a masterpiece, obviously top tier Spielberg. It doesn't feel like a Steven Spielberg movie. It feels like a movie directed by Steven Spielberg.
Which is obviously no means a bad thing.
Sure.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
All right, let's see. So it's already passed. I just want to shout her out. Elizabeth Keckley, her actress, Gloria Rubin, that Tiki and I know from Mr. Robot. It's Dr. Krista.
Yeah.
A lot of future stars in this movie.
She was. I saw some behind the scenes stuff, and she was super honored to get the role.
Yeah,
and,
she did a lot of research.
Just looking
they
into
all
the
did.
research, it was very enlightening for her. Go ahead.
No, they all did. I was just getting they all did research. Yeah.
Dragon, any? I feel like this whole game is going to be like just a Where's Waldo of famous people. So anyone in this shot.
Yeah. No, not this shot. Just the Daniel Day-Lewis. I do want to call this out there. Here's just like a fact.
One thing that's actually kind of refreshing about this movie is like actually how much humor there is.
Yeah, this is a really.
Yes.
I love the charmingly short speech subverting the expectation of like, oh, it's Lincoln always with the famous speech. He's like, no, it's just very, very humble, and also the stovepipe hat, just bringing it in up top.
That's my speech. and also a nice historical anecdote, but just a small one. He actually put the speech into his hat like he did in real life.
Love that. Love using that hat as like a little carrying case.
Oh yeah. We get a lot of mileage out of framing that hat.
But like what's like really unique is like it's not just like the big obviously life experience of Abraham Lincoln, but it's like the small little mannerisms and minutia of the man that he perfectly captured.
Oh, totally. The posture is one of the big things.
All right, we got a Waldo here. This is a Seward. So Seward, Lincoln's right-hand guy, David. I'm always going to butcher his last name. David Strathner.
Right here. What?
David Strathner, if I'm saying that remotely right.
Yeah,
Strathner. Yeah. I think, anyways, that guy. I know him from The Blacklist. He was the priest in Simon Birch, and he was in Godzilla. He's one of the general guys in the 2014 Godzilla.
Funny about The Blacklist, because Spader also shows up.
I know. Yeah, he was one of the bad guys going up against Spader in, I believe, the second season. He was like one of the big bad guys.
Couple of Marvel actors in this movie too.
That there are.
It's a who's who. It really is.
I mean, like there's James Spader. Technically, Lee Pace is in this movie somewhere.
Well, not technically. He's in the movie.
I mean, I said he's in here somewhere.
Walton Goggins.
Yep. Got the Gogs in there. Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Sally Field, not from that Marvel, but just in general.
Oh God. All right.
Okay. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. And Dane DeHaan, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Oh God.
So anyway, I have an analogy for Seward here. I want you to tell me if this sounds good to you. Seward is kind of like the Roy Disney to Lincoln.
Absolutely. That's very much the vibe I got.
You mean Seward?
Oh, sorry, I meant Seward. Yeah, sorry.
Seward.
Sorry, but yeah.
Seward sounds like something else.
Yeah. Right.
God.
Seward here, anyway. So, yes, the
Roy Disney comparison is very apt.
Definitely.
And we're going to set up the whole 20 votes goal and everything here, and again, some other famous faces here. Again, really obscured by the hair and the beard. This guy usually never does both at the same time. The Jolly couples. That's Bill Camp, of course. If I recall, also Bill Camp very big in the Queen's Gambit. Mr. Scheibel, and Elizabeth Marvel, who I always love her last name just for the obvious reason. Elizabeth Marvel, she has a big role in House of Cards. She plays Heather Dunbar. House of Cards is kind of the cynical version of Lincoln, essentially, as a TV series in which they're trying to get votes and whip votes in the shape and get bills passed through very shady means, which is the complete opposite of this film.
I would not call it a cynical Lincoln. Don't lump that show in with Lincoln.
No, Tiki, seriously, no, it's a compliment. House of Cards, with the exception of the last season, is an excellent show.
I know, but I'm just saying, like Frank Underwood is not a Lincoln Dragon.
Well, I'm saying the whole idea of like a guy who's like all about
there's
all
a
about
big
getting
stretch. There's a big difference.
But the fact that he becomes president would be the comparison. He's the anti-Lincoln in this case, trying to pass amendments and stuff through shady means.
All right, fair enough.
Versus the noble means and the noble.
Comfortable comparing Kevin Spacey to fucking.
I'm saying it's like the Antichrist comparison. How is that not good?
All right. I get you.
He's saying it's like a foil, a negative.
Yeah, a negative version, like the very negative, cynical version of Lincoln in the plot of the movie is House of Cards.
Oh, Dragon, by the way, we have a little bit of Steven Spielberg crossover. I could just totally picture Anthony Hopkins, John Quincy Adams writing this letter.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A little bit of cinematic flow.
Well, remember, it's...
If you close your eyes and squint really tight, you might be able to make out a Spielberg cinematic universe.
Yep, the fact that Adam's father wrote it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So basically what we're doing with the Jollies here is they're the demonstration of what Lincoln's up against. We're like, no, everyone wants to end the war, but again, can they get past their own prejudice to do so? That's the challenge. That's the uphill battle. Fun fact, Spielberg, when he was doing his 12 years of research, I want to say I forget if he made his office or just had an office to work at that looked exactly like the Lincoln office just to get ready for the film.
I mean, I wouldn't personally know, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me considering how invested he was in this. I mean, he even researched like the ticking of the watch, the wallpaper in the Lincoln house, like everything.
Yeah, the watch is really heady how they did that, but we'll get there. So yeah, they shot all this in Richmond, Virginia, in their 3.5-month shoot. Basically, the thing with Richmond, Virginia is pretty much like untouched by time. All the mansions in the town, it's like very, very, very folksy, very old school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Seriously, Elizabeth Marvel, excellent actress. I want to get that in there too. She was the bad guy on Manifest, which is now gone. So just throwing that in there too.
Wait, Manifest on Netflix?
Well, yeah, formerly NBC, but yes, Tiki on Netflix.
I kind of dipped my toes into that for like a couple episodes.
I told you, Manifest is right up your alley.
Honestly, Dragon, I dipped my toes into it, and I was like, I'm not really feeling it. It just kind of feels like a Lost ripoff.
Fair enough. I was saying more Leftovers, but sure.
It's definitely got a Leftovers plot, but the vibe of it is more Lost.
Well, I thought maybe you at least get a kick out of the first season, but fair enough.
I might go back to it, but I tried watching the anyways.
I mean, fair enough. Anyway, yeah. So the toll booth thing. I love how such a mundane manner it is, and Lincoln's kind of somewhat of his back sass. Like, I'll look at that letter, but you didn't need to look at the letter initially. Like, yeah, I'll look at that letter.
And he's like, let's see what the law says.
There's an old beanpole for me.
Okay, can I say I love how Lincoln, like people writing letters back and forth to Lincoln and Lincoln's responses becoming like a big deal in the plot. I love how that is illustrated. Like, kind of builds as the movie goes on, like just how valuable Lincoln's letters are.
And not historical fact, Beepo was actually not a real person.
Really?
From what I understand, from what I've heard at least, he was actually made up for the movie.
Well, there you go.
And it kind of does like touch upon the fact that Lincoln at one point was a lawyer.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. One could say he operated out. For the modern day,
oh god.
Sorry, I was going to bring up a McConaughey comparison, but it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Greg and I have made a conscious choice to not bring up that movie, not because I'm not intrigued, but just because like I want to stay on. I want to stay on point.
All right, fine. You were the one. It was your idea, but fine.
It also displays like sometimes Lincoln's strength because he was actually like a wrestler in reality too. He's actually a wrestler.
Yeah,
too.
Lincoln's had quite the colorful past.
Yep.
Okay, where was that fun fact in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln?
That is a good point.
Because Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln like really emphasizes the lawyer thing, but they never mentioned the wrestler thing.
I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, obviously during this project I did in school, we did like there was a lot of research.
Okay, that's how you keep the kids interested in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. You make it like an old school wrestling tournament.
He was a lawyer and a wrestler, and he had looked great in a hat.
Oh my God.
Like I said, Barton, all this, Barton, my friend, but Lincoln was kind of a badass.
I mean, I'm not actually suggesting that they change that show into a wrestling match. Please don't do that. But
I don't think they disrespected that much. I mean, that was one of Walt's things. I don't think they.
At the very least, I would actually be down for a reference to it in the script.
I just want to call out we had Jeremy Strong as kind of Lincoln's secretary. And by the way, I think Jeremy Strong is very underutilized in this one. We just have him standing around with, like, exception of one scene in the whole movie.
There's a lot of people that are underutilized in this movie, all right?
I just want to call it out, okay? Jeremy Strong, he's really good. But we just kind of have him literally in scenes I'm looking at him.
Big three, you're pretty much underutilized.
I know. I'm just saying, it's just very noticeable, though. Literally, if you look at scenes, you'll see, well, there's Jeremy Strong. He's literally standing around with his arms folded. There we go. It's very noticeable after a while because, like, he's the secretary, so he's needed in the scene, but he's just doing nothing. So Hal Holbrook, who we lost, I believe, at the top of this year, sadly.
Which one is he? I'm not as familiar with him as you guys.
Yeah, Holbrook's the guy in the chair, right?
Oh, he's Preston.
Yeah, Preston. Yeah.
Yeah, Holbrook. He's played a number of different characters over the years that impressed me.
Most famously, Mark Twain.
Yeah, he was well known as Mark Twain. Most prominently for me, he was in Into the Wild with Emile Hirsch.
Also, something really ironic, he played Lincoln once.
Right.
Yeah. A little fun because the kid's on screen, right? I love that we put the kid in a little Union uniform, by the way. I don't know, it's kind of cute. But with the kids looking at these glass slides, about slavery, there was actually kind of slavery propaganda. It was like a big thing back then. These little glass slides, you'd kind of like just to kind of spread the word about slavery being a bad thing. It was kind of it was a thing, and yeah, all the little details.
I love how it kind of pays off later, and kind of like it was half joke, half sad. But when it's like when Robbie came back to I was like, no one under 15 is wearing a uniform, and Tad's like, I'm under 15.
I'm under 15.
Yeah, that was a great gag. That's what I'm saying. I love the uniform gag. It's cute and with a great payoff. It's like, hey.
Like
Tad is yet another great Spielberg kid, man. I don't know what else to say.
He is.
Like I said, people like talking about like how dramatic this movie is, but I'm not saying this like movie's like a straight up comedy or anything, but it has a lot of It's
got a lot of levity. It's got a lot of humanity to it. Humanity is the word I'd really use.
It's got humanity. I think humor would be maybe a stretch. It's humanity.
Well, there are some like legitimate funny moments in here.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But
I mean, like I said, you can't have like. It's kind of interesting because, like as you point out, it's humanity, but and people need humor to to get through all this drama and all that.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly something that would be out of character for even someone like Lincoln.
Oh, sure, of course.
I mean, especially the story about George Washington later.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That was a story he told in life a lot. So that was like, it's like, yeah, of course he would, like tell some light in the room. Okay, now this guy, the guy with the beard here, this is the wonderful, I love Bruce McGill. Bruce McGill plays the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton here. Now, he was a judge. He was a judge in this movie called Runaway Jury that the kids haven't seen, but they really should. It's a wonderful film with a great Gene Hackman performance and Dustin Hoffman. I love that movie. And he's also he's a recurring character in Resilience. Bruce McGill pops up a lot, and he has the really hilarious line you like later, Tiki, the fourth wall line, and he's and he's great. And I love that line too. I think it's a great moment for him. But I love that he pops up.
Well, I feel like that line it kind of comes at the perfect place in the movie where we as an audience are kind of sick of the speeches.
I like Lincoln the storyteller, but I feel sometimes when he gets really kind of speechish, it's like goes, yeah.
Here's the thing. Let's get into the dialogue with this movie.
Yeah.
I like it, but I understand. Like, to me, it's almost like Shakespeare.
I know, right? That's what it is.
And the funny thing is, a lot of the actual language was actually slightly modernized.
I
mean, like a lot of phrases and mannerisms that didn't exist back then were incorporated, obviously, to make it more palatable to a modern audience.
Even so, the effect still kind of carries over. It's still a little Shakespeare-like in that it's more about the performances than it is the words.
The reason it's Shakespeare-like for me is because it's so riddled in allegory
and politico. There's a lot of just political kind of rigmarole.
Well, I mean, Tony Kushner does have a playwright history, so
that is true.
So there is a connection to theater there.
Right. This movie, I feel like out of all the Spielberg movies, feels like the one that would be the most easy to adapt into a stage play.
Oh yeah.
And then you could have Tony Kushner do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So something I want to call out here. So Janusz Kaminski, of course, Spielberg's cinematographer galore, who he's kind of worked with very consistently, did the lighting and the cinematography on this. And you'll notice a really cool lighting thing with this movie is that we try to keep Lincoln's eyes in shadow, give him like a mythic feel as much as possible. So he's always got like, a little bit of shadow on the eyes.
Which is kind of interesting because he does mention a pall being around his eyes later, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And if we're speaking of like his regular collaborators, John Williams did bring his A game too to this.
Here's the thing: Williams has a theme that I really love. It comes in very sparingly. It's an excellent theme, like particularly when we go on the battlefield later. I loved like the da, 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 da. It's like that's classic Williams. Like it complements it a great deal.
I'm a little mixed on the Williams score myself.
Well, again, I like that main theme. It's like that one theme. It's really.
But as people have said, like even like a mixed or not even great Williams score is still a good score.
It's a good score. I would not put it in the upper tier of Williams scores.
Nor would I.
Honestly, me neither. I'm just saying he doesn't disappoint.
I feel like he uses that crescendo, like the whole da 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 da. He uses that way too much for way too many moments, and it kind of starts to lose impact by the end of the movie for me.
I'm just saying I really like the piano pieces that he does for this.
The piano pieces are great. I'm just saying, like, I feel like the more swelling and emotional the music gets, the more manipulative it feels.
That sparing cue I keep talking about, which I think is along your piano thing, Jacob, I think, is that's kind of like it's very Munich-esque, and I like it.
I'm honest, Munich is one of the ones I haven't seen, honestly.
It's good, but not one you want to watch often.
Yeah, Munich is... I feel like a lot of other people appreciate Munich more than I do.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, one thing I do want to emphasize as much as I can, it is one of my favorite things about the movie, is just how Lincoln is framed. I mean, I could do a whole video essay about that. I love how... just the fact that he kind of commands the room, but also is on level with them at the same time. I don't know. I just think it's very, very meticulous in regards to, it almost kind of has a Wes Anderson feel, not in terms of how quirky it is. It obviously doesn't have the Wes Anderson quirkiness, but just in terms of like how isometric it is.
It's like he's framed like directly in the center between these two.
Right.
Very kind of like Last Supper framing,
Yeah, totally.
And he was a man of faith too.
Yeah. So the core of
Abraham Lincoln was a deeply religious man.
True.
He was, yeah.
So the core of the story that we're kind of framing up in our big scene here is that the intrigue is Lincoln's trying to solve the United States' most embarrassing problem, which is slavery, and the prolonged prolonging this and risking complication. We're risking a big complication if it's not abolished ASAP. That's pretty much what we're saying here in this big scene. And also, you'll notice in the editing, a lot of times, like when we had kind of like a little bit of a light tracking shot throughout that whole scene. Just kind of like holding on that, and we kind of hold on reactions a lot. It's Michael Kahn really struggling with the editing. I think he did. He's trying to really capture, again, because you can't really get too ambitious. You can't cut wildly. You can't go really artful with the scene. You just kind of have to let them play and really focus on the performances.
I am mixed on the editing, but I feel like I'm higher than you are on it, because I really dived into what Spielberg was going for with this, and he really did want it to be intimate. Like, intimate is kind of like the big word that Spielberg was kind of throwing around with this movie. And so because of that, I really don't mind for the most part that we do linger.
I respect what he's going for with the linger. I just think it hurts the pacing overall because we do it too often. wish we did it more sparingly.
It's a Spielberg movie. The man is wildly, bipolar in regards to if he's going to have good pacing or not.
Well, you're not wrong.
Either has excellent pacing or not great pacing.
Okay. It does highlight the long shots do highlight how great of how good Daniel Day-Lewis can perform these scenes in one take.
I mean, absolutely, and that's clearly why I think we do them.
Yep.
I'd like to highlight his obviously finely tuned acting chops for this.
Okay, and I also want to just highlight from my personal experience with this movie, There Will Be Blood, I would still rank is my number one movie of the 2000s. Number one.
Drink your milkshake.
That is, like, definitively, if I had to pick one movie from the 2000s, that would be it. So I was coming off of, like, I was still obsessed with There Will Be Blood when I saw this movie. And so, like, at a certain point, it's like, it's like, oh, it's okay. Like Abraham Lincoln's really given a good performance in this. You know, it's like, you don't really think about Daniel Day-Lewis. You just,
I know, I get that. That's because he's doing such a good job. Again, basically, the movie,
like,
we're watching a movie.
Don't you want to just be like, Abe, you're doing a good job if you're
I know
acting,
that's what I'm saying. It's so that's the stellar thing about it, where again, I'm not watching Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm just watching Lincoln.
Right.
Movie. Okay, so we have, of course, Tiki. We have very familiar face. We have David Constable.
Dragon, this was by far the most distracting thing when I saw this movie the first time.
For the kids out there,
so distracting every time this dude popped up.
For our fellow Albuquerque Verse alumni, this is Gail Bedecker. David Constable, the actor who plays Gail Bedecker from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, as James Ashley, the
I think
House of Representatives.
Fits right in. He fits right in. He is very much one of those, like, classically trained New York actor types, right?
Yeah.
But oh my god, just coming right off of Breaking Bad, like, I believe Breaking Bad was, like, ending right around this time, and so, like, we were probably all going through rewatch. It's like, oh man, super distracting at the time. Nowadays, I feel like I can really get into his role.
You're probably like part 1 of season 5 at this point, if I'm a betting man.
Yeah, it's like that. This movie came out in 2012.
Yeah. So Breaking Bad, I believe, was 2013. So this, I mean, by the time part 2 of season 5 rolled around.
Okay, can I just say the whale metaphor is one of my favorite metaphors in the movie?
Why?
I don't know. I just think it's effective and very visual. Like it paints a good picture.
And it kind of harkens Moby Dick.
One could say Abe have,
and I also like that. I also like the response. That man's never been near a ship in his life.
I know, it's great.
Or a whaling ship in particular.
Yeah. The man's never been whaling in his life.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, to me, I love that dichotomy of, like, Lincoln just, like, being so quick on his feet to come up with that metaphor, like, on the spot, and have it be a genuinely great metaphor that he explained so eloquently, and then we kind of smash cut to, like, that's what he said? He said whaling?
So from the bluster of old white men enters Tommy Lee Jones to save the scene here as Thaddeus Stevens.
Okay. Dragon, I'm going to let you, I've been looking for a moment to step away and grab a coffee, so I'm going to let you go on about Tommy Lee Jones for a minute while I go do that, all right?
Andy.
All right.
So Thaddeus Stevens, very much kind of the other side of Lincoln's penny, if you will. He's blunt and he's kind of the blunt and boisterous version of Lincoln versus Lincoln's very quiet and kind of the quiet timbre of Lincoln and the flowery speeches and kind of folksy lore of Lincoln. He's very much about kind of charming the people and just kind of like getting trust versus kind of like the blunt truth of Stevens here, that slavery sucks and we got to do something about it. And it's got to level the playing field, in the right way.
Tommy Lee Jones still definitely deserved at least a nomination for this movie.
And he did.
And he never got it.
Which is a shame. And I'm really looking forward. Tommy Lee Jones has a movie coming out with Robert De Niro. It looks really fun. It's called The Comeback Trail. And basically we're trying to kill Tommy Lee Jones in the movie. It looks really funny.
Okay.
Like we're trying to kill him like in a stunt on a movie. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the wonderful James Spader. So basically, these guys are the lobbyists, kind of the whip squad. Again, very House of Cards kind of sort of like season-long plan, if you will. We're trying to drum up votes for a motion. Ergo, we need we need kind of our lobbyists and kind of like we know a guy who knows a guy to kind of convince people into kind of getting a specific vote. So we have James Spader as William N. Bilbo, who's basically he's kind of look wise he's a composite because there's no photos of this guy, so we kind of there's a lot of like room to interpret for Bilbo.
Is he in the middle, center, or left?
No, well, James Spader's the one with the mustache on the. Well, sorry, they're all have a mustache. He's the one on the very right with the crab. He smashed the crab with the hammer.
Okay.
He's the very ill-mannered one. He's the very
the one with the mustache.
Yeah, sorry. Well, technically, he has the most mustache of the rest of them, like handlebar, like beard, Victorian concoctions on their faces. He just has a straight mustache.
Yeah.
Fair point. Like not Tim Blake Nelson. Tim Blake Nelson was the guy on the other side of the table. Richard Shell.
Him, I've actually heard of.
Yeah, Tim Blake. Yeah. Well, seriously, James Spader though. I mean,
I've heard of Jim Spader.
Yeah, of course. For the folks out there, James Spader, voice of Ultron, Age of Ultron, more accurately, Raymond Reddington on The Blacklist, excellent actor, and I guess for the women out there, secretary. All right. So we have the House of Representatives. Boy, oh boy, the House of Representatives always, and this seems to be something just seems untouched by history, in my opinion, at least going back a couple of years, where it's always been raucous and it's always been rambunctious. This whole place is always like a bunch of people yelling at each other, and usually a guy down there on the podium just basically kind of mouthing off the Congress, usually as the way that goes. So some things are unchanged by time.
You have to be and just like in Hamilton, there are at least 3 of these things in the entire movie.
Sure. And we have, of course, the wonderful Lee Pace. Lee Pace, Ronan the Accuser for the Guardians of the Galaxy fans out there, and John DeLorean for the some of the other biopics that he's done. He played a really good John DeLorean in the John DeLorean biopic Driven, I believe it's called, with Jason Sudeikis. So he's playing kind of the Mr. Wood, the real mouthy kind of like fire and brimstone type here, representing the South's interest, I believe, or at least just just kind of the naysayers, let's call them.
Yeah, they're very loud naysayers.
Yeah. So what we have here is the lobbyists, James Spader as well here. So again, he's always like eating in a scene or he's whittling something. Just very, he's living it up while they're tasked with doing the work here. We have, I believe, Blake Nelson. Up top in this balcony, they're handicapping the lobbyists. The lobbyists are handicapping the House of Representatives guys so they can get a particular vote. They're trying to see who they can kind of get a particular yes vote out of, like who they can sway.
Yeah, including this one Mr. Yeaman, who pretty much hinges on the whole thing.
Of course, Yeaman played by the incomparable Strolberg, Michael Strolberg. I love him so much, especially in Shape of Water. Also, Tommy Lee Jones crossover. He was great in Men in Black 3. He played Griffin, he was kind of the psychic character. I'm not blanking on what exactly his shorthand was, but it's been a while. He's good in that too.
He was like the guy who taught how to travel through time, right?
Yeah, like he could see probable outcomes in quantum theory and stuff. He was he's like a cleric or something. I don't know. You could see the future or potential outcomes of the future. Anyway, we're drifting.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about
But
all right, here we go. We got the boisterous Stevens here. It's just kind of calling out the other side.
This is exactly why Tommy Lee Jones is so good in this movie, because Jacob, you mentioned the comedy. It's like, how can you not just crack up at some of this stuff?
Yeah, it's like almost everything that comes out of his mouth can be funny. Like people always outside Men in Black, people underestimate how funny Tommy Lee Jones is. He's a very good comedically serious character.
I would wager to say still to this day he has one of the funniest line deliveries in the entire MCU.
I'm not kissing you.
I'm not kissing you.
Tiki, the guy that basically the boss here, our de facto bad guy of the piece,
yes,
if you will, Pendleton. Pendleton, do you recognize him?
I want to say I do.
He is from Daredevil.
Oh, is he?
Yes, yet another MCU alumni.
That's crazy.
You want me to tell you who he is?
Yeah, who is he?
That's Peter McRobbie. That's Father Lantom from Daredevil.
What? Father fucking Lantom? Are you shitting me?
No, that's him. That's Lantom. He's
dear God!
So not Lee Pace, but his
this
boss.
This movie's cast is crazy. I love this shot. Great tracking shot.
So, of course, speaking of big names, we have the wonderful JGL. We got Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah. Like, I barely even registered that was him in 2012, and this was like post 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, from what I hear, Daniel Day-Lewis fought for him as his son in this movie. Yeah, which is really good, and it's good to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
And his character's name is Robert, right?
Yeah, it's Robert Lincoln, Bobby Lincoln, yeah. Robbie Lincoln, sorry.
So I came to a realization, and I want to get it up front right now, right at Robbie's introduction. All
right, what?
Okay, it's Robbie's introduction.
What?
Does that name sound familiar?
Yes, it's short for Robert. What do you want from me?
War of the Worlds.
Oh, there you go.
This is the War of the Worlds Robbie plot done right. This is exactly what Spielberg was going for with the War of the Worlds Robbie plot. And it hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized it.
Well, I concur to the extent that it's Robbie exhibiting the Spielberg Daddy Issues trope, but I don't know.
Okay, look, the Robbie thing is just a coincidence, all right? The name is just a coincidence. But what I'm saying is like the whole like struggling with a child who wants to go into war and, and kind of like respecting the dignity of that while still respecting the pain of that. Dragon, it leads to, in my opinion, the best scene in the movie, which is the blow up between Lincoln and Mary Todd, that big argument, the argument.
Would you call that the low of lows for Act 2? Or
I would absolutely call that the low of lows of the movie. Absolutely.
There we go.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like I said, I just realized it. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like this is like the Daddy Issues plot of War of the Worlds, but done so much more legitimately.
I gotta tell you, though, what's really cool about Levitt's cast. Of course, Levitt's he's a good actor. We need more of this kid.
We need more of Levitt. Yeah, Levitt kind of fell off the face of the earth for a while, and he's kind of slowly coming back.
I love that with his. It's going to sound kind of weird, but I can absolutely buy him as a younger, more firebrand version of Lincoln in his youth. I can kind of see that in the kid.
Oh, I could totally see him as lawyer Lincoln.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
Not to be confused with the Lincoln lawyer.
No, that one operates outside the back.
Or young Mr. Lincoln.
Oh, this is James Spader's idea, by the way, to whittle the duck in the scene because apparently in the Civil War times, this was big. Kind of whittling. Big hobby.
Did this movie ever mention Eddie Lincoln?
Who?
Eddie Lincoln, one of the 4 sons.
No, they don't mention him. If I remember, he was wasn't he like the one that died in infancy?
Yeah, he died like 3 years old.
Yeah, they did. Here's the thing. So Lincoln had 4 sons, if I recall. He had 4 sons, and basically the only one that survived was Robbie, who to adulthood. The rest of them kind of, because the 1800s suck, and you die because medical care was not great back then. They all got sick and died.
Oh God! Did Mary Todd outlive them?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
She outlived.
God, that poor woman. Poor woman.
She died. She died in 1882.
Oh man.
I think I think she outlived. Well, no, I guess maybe she didn't outlive Robbie. I don't know about that. Again, Robbie's the only one who didn't.
I genuinely hope she didn't outlive Robbie.
Yeah, I don't think she outlived Robbie.
I'm looking at the wiki page. Robert died in 1926.
Well, there you go.
All right, I'm just going to mention it once and then never mention it again. As Lord of the Rings fan, the name Bilbo just totally throws me off every time they say it.
What do you think of Spader in the movie, though, Tiki?
I mean, don't get me. He's good. I mean, he's not one of the standouts, but he's good.
No, but again, he's like a source of the comedy, though. Which is kind of good.
Yeah, totally.
So this is where we have kind of our House of Cardi kind of shenanigans here. But again, on the up and up, though, we're offering people jobs and everything, but we're kind of doing the tactics like shaking hands and everything. Like, hey, I want to show you something. I want to get your vote. Let me try to sway you to my way of thinking. A little jaunty montage, and there's the great Walton Goggins, and 2 MCU actors on screen at the same time.
Do you guys do either of you know the context of this leg?
Oh yeah, that's an actual thing. It's in I'm trying to remember where it's at. I know I think it's in Maryland. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a basic cannon blew off this leg, and they put it in the museum. It was like an oddity. It was during Gettysburg. I don't know if it was during the Gettysburg Address or anything. It was in Gettysburg where the leg got blown off.
This is like
petrified it.
this isn't exactly like anything to do with Lincoln, but it just kind of reminds me of the story of like in the Alamo where General Santana's leg got blown up and they had a funeral for it.
Yep.
Sorry, it's just like a funny historical anecdote.
Yeah. Yeah, just like a Christmas story, funeral for a leg.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, they're discussing the votes here.
Yes, and there's Jeremy Strong just standing there again.
He said they do that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with him as you are.
Yeah, he pops up now and again. I like him when I've seen him. Of course, most recently Chicago 7.
Is he related to Mark Strong?
I highly doubt it, Tiki, but I don't know.
I didn't think so.
He looks like his brother could be Giovanni Ribisi, though, if you ever look at him, though.
I mean, Strong is kind of a semi-common last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be awesome, though, if I found that out.
I'm still impressed by how much I liked Mark Strong in Cruella, of all things.
Mark Strong always delivers, man. Even in Green Lantern, he delivers.
And barely anybody delivered in that movie.
True.
Least of all the
one thing I like about the structure of this film, as meticulous and slow-paced as it is I like how much time we're spending on each individual person that's going to have a vote. Just because I like how in the big finale, we literally get to see everyone's vote and everyone's face and everyone weighing that decision. So, like, honestly, I feel like this movie might have even been better served as like a John Adams style miniseries in that regard. Because they are building up a lot of characters.
The funny thing is, I kind of watched this in halves when I just my preparation for this, so it kind of was kind of like a 2-part miniseries.
What was your cutoff point, Jacob? Out of curiosity.
What? I mean, I pretty much just stopped it at like an hour and a half point. I'll point it out if I remember.
Yeah, It's weird though. Honestly, for me, those scenes, like the lead up to those scenes that we have, like here, like in the montage and everything, I don't find as
isn't that Jackie Earle Haley?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it's Jackie Earle Haley as Steffens here, as basically for the Confederate side,
the vice president.
Yes. Anyway,
he's a semi-pop. He's a semi-big name. Although he was kind of already notable at this point for Rorschach.
Of course, Jagger is a very underrated actor. Excellent when he pops up as well. I mean, he was great on Preacher for the first season. Obviously, no one's going to replace Robert Englund, but from what I could see, did a good job as Freddy Krueger. You could do a lot worse. Yeah. I loved him in Alita: Battle Angel. He was great in that. But anyway, so what was it? All right. Anyway, so Tiki, in regards to the whole, I love the payoff as well, but I got to tell you, I feel the more important recap of those guys is when Lincoln approaches them and basically gets it done himself versus the individual stuff we do before that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, to me, I think it's honestly all the recap. Honestly, just the Act 3 of it all is what we need from those guys. If you include that Lincoln kind of like getting up and
how would you weave a full story out of just doing Act 3 though?
I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying. I feel like there's enough characterization in that for me just to kind of get who those people are based on Lincoln visiting them and then having the vote within that frame of time. I'm not saying, I don't know. I feel I get more character from them there than I do just like, we're getting votes from these guys.
That's totally fair.
That's what I feel. I feel that's the more compelling, like Lincoln getting his hands dirty and actually getting like convincing him with the votes. And I don't know.
Okay, I don't want to go political with this podcast at all, so I'm only going to point it out.
Well, you picked the wrong movie because we're talking about Lincoln.
I'm talking modern day politics, right?
Oh, right.
Politics,
of course.
I'm only going to bring this up once and then drop it. All right. How heady is it that the Democrats are the bad guys and the Republicans are the good guys?
That is heady when you think of that. It's a lot of people. I think a lot of people forget that Lincoln was a Republican.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this actor, oh my goodness, the valet. So Lincoln's kind of his valet, and he's for all intents and purposes butler character here. The guy working on the suit and everything. This guy, is a great actor. He's a great character actor. Stephen McKinley Henderson. He plays Bill Slade here, and I think he's a great actor. But the role, I think he delivered so much. It's a small role, but it's a wonderful role, and he's kind of the inciting incident for the piece. It's called a movie called Tower Heist. Which, I mean, I like it. A lot of people, I'm sure, just kind of like just cast this as like, oh, Brett Ratner movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that a fucking Brett Ratner movie?
Yes, but I mean, I think that has its charm. At the very least, he's the reason for the heist because people like that guy and something bad happens to him. They're trying to do the heist for him.
I have a viscerally negative reaction to Brett Ratner.
All right, that's what I guess. Thinking you're adult enough just to hear the name, but regardless. This guy, though, he's an excellent actor. I think he conveyed a lot, especially for the final scene between him and Lincoln, which kind of speaks volumes. So I think he was a kind of a great kind of ancillary role.
He's a great character actor, Dragon. I do want to highlight him. I'm glad you mentioned him. He pops up all over the place.
I know. Like I've seen him like pop in the Blue Bloods once, and he just kind of pops. He has a very memorable face, and I like this bit that we give him here.
Him in at least a couple live-action Disney remakes, which not the most flattering credits, but Disney does seem to like to use him.
Yeah, he's got this great blunt line that is in this scene about the whole the kids kind of insensibly asking, "Hey, were you a slave?" This is, "No, I wasn't a slave." And then of course, as she comes in, Miss Giggly here was.
Okay, I really, really hope this doesn't sound insensitive when I say this, but he's almost kind of got like a Black Santa Claus vibe.
I mean, it's a weird way of putting it, but okay.
and there was the.
I mean, he's friendly and lovable, sure, I guess.
Yeah, he's jolly, Dragon.
Yeah, jolly. I mean, I'll take it. Sure.
And there was the "I'm under 15" payoff.
I know, it was great. It's a good gag. The movie has its gags like that.
Yeah. It's just a much-needed levity in this whole movie.
So again, this brings back the point earlier. So again, Lincoln lost a lot of sons. 3 out of the four died young. Even Tad, even the kid that we're glowing about with the whole like I'm under 15 gag. The 1800s just plumb sucked with what these poor Lincolns went through and losing their children.
Well, technically, Abe did die before Willie did, as this movie obviously shows.
Well, fine. Well, he still lost 2 kids, didn't he?
Well, I'm not saying it like softens the blow, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a tragedy, and obviously it also had an effect on him and, of course, Mary as well.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of the whole idea where Lincoln is, he's so connected? God, by the way, anytime Lincoln is standing over someone, I just love the framing of it.
I mean, like, he was, like I said before, he was extremely tall in real life.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is the idea that Lincoln is using his youngest son to kind of like make up for lost time in the parenting department.
Yeah, he is, because I'm sure there's some guilt over kind of losing the other sons and maybe not being there for him as much as he could have, because again, he's had a lot thrust upon his shoulders, there's a lot of that's why he's keeping him around. Like during the big climatic, one of the big lead up to the climatic scenes of the movie, the kid just kind of runs in, hugs his father, grabs some crayons or something, and he just kind of runs out of the room. It's like a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
So we have the bottleneck scene here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look here. Yeah, is Lincoln wearing 2 gloves or just 1 glove so he can shake the hands bare?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's already passed. Plus, we're going to focus a lot on Mary here, so it's probably. So what we're doing here is we're setting up the arc of Mary Todd, kind of growing a respect for Stevens.
It's like, what if for like longer scenes too?
Yep.
Outside like the argument later.
Oh yeah. Trying to look. I'm looking. Yeah, there's no glove on that hand. Yeah. I wonder why. Why is the glove on the other hand? If you just like, can you just focus on the one? I don't know. Anyway.
It is an odd detail to focus on.
Like no one else is wearing gloves. I don't get it.
Like, okay, Dragon, you have a weird fascination with gloves.
Well, I'm just noticing we had like the bit where he's getting them, where Bill Slade's getting them dressed, and they had like.
Dragon, I will come to your defense on this one. There were a couple weird glove moments where I was like, "What?" I don't really understand the significance of that.
It was like a whole thing where it says like something about the leather of the cow it came from. So we addressed the gloves in dialogue, and he's wearing one of them. I don't know.
And he hands glove. and Slade hands gloves to Lincoln later on.
That's what I'm saying. The glove thing's a motif.
Okay, really quick. I don't want to talk over this scene. This is
Sure,
Mary Todd's most powerful scene in regards to like she is owning the room.
Yeah. Despite the weakness that she showed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Understandable weakness, but the point being she's showing extreme strength under.
And she was like demonstrating how she didn't even want to do the party either, like especially like after the wake of how it pretty much caused or in relation to one of their son's deaths.
Yeah, she's very ardently defending her husband.
Yeah, so I really like that quality of Mary Todd, where it's like obviously she's not going to take shit from him. Like that is very clear right up front. This is like a like a kind of like a malicious wife where it's like, okay, like you are not going to get bullshit past me, but I do see you for the great man that you are, and don't think that you don't. And I'm going to stand behind you every step of the way as long as you're straight with me.
All right, this is a great scene between two actors here. Between Stevens and Lincoln having this kind of conversation.
I hate to say it, but these two almost have better chemistry than Sally Fields and Daniel Day-Lewis.
I would agree. I'd be one to agree with you.
Like, I would not be like if it came out that she had an affair with this guy, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but I don't know. There's a spark there.
Okie dokie.
So basically, the idea is these two men want. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just laughing.
All right. So the idea here is that Stevens and Lincoln, they want the same things clearly, but Stevens wants it all, and he wants it all sooner rather than later. It's like we gotta.
Stevens is the Veruca Salt of the White House.
Sure, just with a wig, but yeah.
I know it's so weird.
He's just wanting now, but Lincoln is like one who's waiting for the right time.
Exactly. And again, this is a lesson within the Stevens arc that he has to learn. He has to learn to wait, to basically kind of play the long game, which he does in a very effective scene in the film. One of the best scenes.
In other words, Lincoln is not throwing away his shot, and Tommy Lee Jones wants to wait for it. I love it. All right.
Funnily enough, while you were gone, I actually did bring up Hamilton.
That he did.
Specifically how there's like 3 courtroom scenes in this movie.
We do have a really funny line in this scene, I believe. I look a lot worse without my wig. It's great. Tommy Lee Jones. I'd love to think that's improvised, but I can't tell you one way or another.
My sister and I used to just have this random thing that we did where we would just start just saying Tommy Lee Jones's name in a Tommy Lee Jones voice. And just every time we did it, it'd be like more and more like incomprehensible, just like Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones! Tommy Lee Jones! All right, anyways, little childhood nostalgia that only me and one other person will ever understand.
Yep.
But the
Tommy Lee Jones!
But the wig thing does have an interesting payoff later, though.
It does.
And it's in a heartwarming scene, too.
Yeah.
So...
looking at the little things here, I think there's like a carving of like a bird on his cane too, right?
It's hard to tell.
I think there's like something on it. I think it's a bird.
If it is a bird, then I gotta say that's got kind of a Mary Poppins.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. Or a bird or something. It's like a kind of
I mean, honestly, like what real life historical figure is more Mary Poppins-esque than Lincoln? Well, probably a lot of people, but.
Well, I mean,
whimsy of like how perfect of a man he is.
Right.
Like Tommy Lee Jones from Mary Poppins 3. Sorry.
God. I'd buy it. I'd watch
it. Anyway.
Bye, Mary Poppins. Don't stay away too long now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like little narrative details. You have to help the wife off with like the old school like corsets and stuff, and kind of the aftermath of the fancy party. Neither of them really want to go to.
Yeah, it's the private moments that you don't really think about when you read the history books.
Yeah, this is the moment you were referring to, Tiki. The whole idea of like just make sure you make time for Robert, not just Tad.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like that. That's kind of I don't know. I like that there's this movie feels very much like real life, where it doesn't necessarily have side plots per se, but it just has like these little kind of like hanging dilemmas in Lincoln's life that just go to show that he's a very imperfect person who did just a very, very obviously like god tier historical thing.
The big takeaway is like Lincoln was a man too, just like he was an ordinary human being, just like the rest of us.
Here we go. Here's a fun scene. So basically, the tensions are really mounting here, and Lincoln's got to break those tensions.
Fun, but
I think this is the scene you were referring to earlier, where it's like no more speech.
Yeah, that's what this scene. Yeah, it's about to get into like we have one this hilarious.
Go away, we're occupied.
Yeah.
Right.
I just like how Lincoln was casually in the room over in the corner there. It's almost like, like did anybody even know he was there?
Yep, there's Jeremy Strong just sitting there again. But, no, but seriously though, Lincoln's story, the Ethan Allen story is a really funny story.
Which is apparently something that he did that he said in real life, dude. Not Lincoln, but like the whole George Washington anecdote actually happened.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and of course I love her. Again, Bruce McGillis kills me here. You're going to tell her a story again, aren't you? I don't think, because he's so unsure there, I don't think I can stand to listen to another one of your stories right now. I love how polite he's being, even though being so kind of like, I've had it. I'm out of here.
It's like, screw this, I'm out of here.
I love it. Oh, God, Bruce McGill rocks.
Yeah.
He does. He brings like a legitimate heft to it, but also can get away with some levities. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think he played. I forget if he played Santa Claus in the Family Guy Road to the North Pole episode or not. I think. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
It's been a while.
Okay, so I'm sorry. This is we just got to that fourth wall moment, right?
Yeah. The fourth age. See, stormed out already. Yeah.
I don't want to hear another one of your speeches.
So I like that Lincoln just immediately just dives into the speech anyways. Like, all right, for anyone who wants to listen, I'm going to weave you a little yarn here if y'all care.
It's a story. It's a story worth listening to.
Well, just to kind of like the kids who just kind of like know the very basics of history have a moment here of just like, oh, there's Lincoln kind of giving old Washington a little nod to like the first guy, like, hey, Georgie boy, scaring the Englishman.
That's about as close as you're going to get to an Avengers Endgame level moment in this movie.
I mean, sure.
I know.
Not really like a portal scene, but
Both one with actual historical relevance.
Fucking Chris Jackson, George Washington comes in. All right, anyways.
Anyway.
You want more presidents?
Oh, God.
Like the legacy, I guess that makes John Quincy Adams the Ant-Man with the legacy thing.
Oh, God.
Well, there's Driver, yeah.
Yep, he's also in a later scene too.
Yeah, I know. He has a better scene later with Lincoln himself. I'm saying right there.
I mean, he doesn't even say anything in this scene, I think.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a Where's Waldo moment in this scene.
Yeah, it's oh my God, there's Kylo Ren.
Was he even in Girls at this point?
Probably. What's Girls?
Maybe.
It was either right before Girls or like right at the beginning of Girls. But, probably.
Well, because Girls is what really made him famous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was his real. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it wasn't.
I want to say this was like at the very start of his career.
Yeah.
He probably, I'm guessing he did some theater work.
See, there's Lantham Tiki. Peter McRobbie.
A lot of big names in this.
Acting against ruining
Guys,
the accuser.
what's your timestamp? I think I'm a little behind.
All right, I'm Jacob. What do you got?
Currently 103.58.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Now 104.
Yeah, well, yeah, ditto. So, yeah, so that's man. What I was saying is, go acting against Lee Pace. Let me know when
you're at 104.30.
I love the irony that's ruining the accuser, throwing out, lobbing all these accusations and all these all the bluster.
Who knows? Like, it's a shame we didn't actually see more congressional situations to be solved with a dance. It's 30 now.
Okay.
Like, it's a shame we didn't see more congressional situations be solved with a dance battle.
God.
Oh, so a little fun fact. I mean, I know it's kind of already passed, but when they do the White House, the exterior, they actually took the state capitol exterior, because the state capitol looks very similar to. They basically built I guess some columns or something in front of it to make it look like the White House. So that's what they do. So it's the state. So when if you ever see the exterior in this movie of the White House, it's basically the state capitol is redressed.
You mean the state capitol in Richmond or what?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because again, Richmond loved this movie. They gave him like carte blanche, and it was like a ghost town from the shoot. It was they kind of hit it at just the right point, so they were able to shoot everywhere. And they basically redressed the inside of this place too. It's just it looks as old again. It's very untouched by time, with few exceptions.
Sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Richmond, Virginia is way nicer than Richmond, California, because Richmond, California does not have a good reputation.
Does that include Point Richmond, or?
I don't know. I've never heard of Point Richmond.
So I hear Point Richmond's a dumpster fire, but I don't know.
Dragon, Richmond in general is a dumpster fire. You know that Inside Out analogy with Oakland?
Yeah.
It's arguably worse than Oakland.
Tiki, our boy's on screen.
My boy?
Our boy.
Who's my boy?
It's Michael Strohberg.
Oh, right. Oh my God.
Speaking
So
of
many people, dude. So many people.
Speaking of connections and speaking into what's currently going on here, Ohio really doesn't get the best representation in this movie.
No, it doesn't, Jacob. I was kind of thinking about that.
I mean, which is funny because technically Spielberg is from Ohio. But
Completely forgot about that.
And you know what's funny is that Virginia does get kind of a good reputation in this movie, but it does not get a good reputation in Hamilton.
Goggins here got in trouble, and now he's flip flopping because he's panicked. And this is what I'm talking about. We just keep going back.
I love this Goggins scene. I love, man. You can just see the panic in his face.
I mean, well, Goggins is great, but this is what I'm saying. We just keep going.
I'll find another job.
Bilbo and Goggins in the same scene.
Yep.
It's almost like Lord of the Rings kind of writes itself at that point.
I know, right?
I mean, I know Goggins isn't a Lord of the Rings or Hobbit character, but it's just so close.
It sounds like a Hobbit character, honestly.
I gotta tell you, it's really funny for me seeing James Spader on his heels in this movie after the votes aren't going his way, and especially after someone tries to shoot him, because Raymond Reddington is the iconic character he plays on the regular basis is such the opposite. He would get those votes without question or compunction. To see him on his heels, it's so funny. And again, also the shout out too. The main reason they cast him is the blacklist is either in its infancy or not. They're not going on yet at this point. So the shout out. Boston Legal is the absolute reason he's in this movie. I'm convinced. Mm-hmm. Boston Legal is, of course, he's very patriotic in that show, and of course, they've done some. He and William Shatner in that show, very much about courts of laws and everything. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure that's absolutely why they cast him in this film. Love him in Boston. Boston was like James Spader in his prime, in my opinion. He's just perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that Outshaw is kicking the dirt up. He's like, "You're shooting me!" And he has to go back for the booklet. He's already passed, but it was hysterical.
And he's just priming the gun for the next shot. Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's threatening him, but it's also kind of funny at the same time.
The 1800s, when you wanted to shoot a man, you better be prepared beforehand.
And here's Ulysses Grant, and
okay, we got a great actor for Ulysses S. Grant. We have Jared Harris. People love him on The Crown. I know him from Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows, and Mad Men.
I would argue that he's got one of the weaker American accents in this movie.
That's true, but again, he's a great Moriarty. The great Moriarty, but you're right, does not exactly translate, but he's good, though. I think he's good.
He is. What I like about him, Dragon, is I feel like Grant is a character, a historical figure that can be very easily demonized, and for good reason, right?
Well, I don't know about demonized. I might be going a little far, but I mean,
I mean, if you look at him as like the face of the bad side of the Civil War.
Well, no, he's the good side, Tiki. Grant's the. You're thinking of General Lee, Tiki.
I am thinking of General Lee.
Lee's the bad guy. Lee has Lee's barely in the movie. He's like at the very end.
I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
Okay, so the point being, Grant's the awesome.
Well, but then again, it's not like Ulysses Grant was entirely squeaky clean either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm thinking maybe, I don't know if demonize is right. But,
speaking of which, he's in Ohio. He's from Ohio, so
wasn't he the president after Lincoln?
Okay, not after, but the one right after. Like was it Andrew Johnson and then Ulysses S. Grant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew Johnson became president because surprisingly, Andrew Johnson was not in this movie, but he was the vice president of Lincoln.
Yeah, that's so essentially he was like basically the next guy elected. Really, was
I feel like the Secretary of State took that role.
Which is kind of surprising that Andrew Johnson, I don't think, is even in this movie.
I don't even think he gets a name drop.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he does in the movie.
But yeah, he was the president after Lincoln because the whole assassination thing.
Yeah. So I feel like with Ulysses Grant, I feel like a lot of people kind of have it like where he didn't like. I feel like he gets a bad rap with the Reformation era, right?
You kind of. I mean, he's not exactly like he's not usually written as one of the more popular ones, but
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, what I'm trying to say, though, my very long-winded way is I just appreciate how humanized we get with pretty much all these characters. But all right, so really quick, wardrobe. What do y'all think of Abe Lincoln's getup in this scene?
I like the detail. If I'm reading it right, is that he and his buddy here they're cold because it's the old days. They weren't layers. I love that detail.
I really like it. I really like it a lot.
It's kind of like I was like wearing a shawl, kind of.
Yeah, it's like a shawl, and then this guy's wearing like kind of like a kimono jacket or something.
Yeah.
It's like
you don't really see a lot of guys wearing shawls, but they kind of could bring it back.
Yeah, it's cold, you gotta bundle up back then.
Yep, there wasn't like internal air or anything, or furnaces or AC by that point, except for like coal.
Yeah. Sure.
So.
All right, so this, I believe, just so I don't miss it, I know it's coming up. We're about to have the watch scene. So, fun fact. So, Ben Burtt, of course, famous Ben Burtt, the man behind the sounds of Star Wars, recording the sounds of Star Wars. Regular collaborator with Spielberg. He sought out Lincoln's actual watch to make the sounds of this watch. So
really quick, I want to point out that shot of Lincoln toying with the watch was the first promotional shot we ever got of Daniel Day-Lewis in the role.
I remember that.
I very vividly remember that. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of followed this movie around the time it came out too.
Mm-hmm. You and I probably followed it from a kind of a similar trajectory.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the watch I believe he died with, too.
Yeah.
When they recorded the sound on for that scene.
It's kind of amazing how historically accurate some of these things are. Like, even, like, the artifacts that are in, like, museums were allowed to be used for this kind of thing.
Yeah. I also feel like just in terms of, like, the way it's used in the sound design, it's almost like an early predecessor to what Nolan would do with Dunkirk, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's not nearly as prominent as it is in Dunkirk, but I do feel like, much like with Dunkirk, it is used to kind of, like, elevate suspense.
It kind of bothers me you're saying it wrong. It's Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
Okay.
I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis as Abraham Lincoln could deliver that line really well.
Oh, of course he would. So, this is a quaint little scene, though. I just love the idea of Lincoln late night. He's kind of procrastinating a little by doing a bunch of pardons. And he's kind of foraying it into pardoning as the war's nearly done. What use is one more corpse? Any corpse? It's a great line for Lincoln. We have a couple real honey of a line for Lincoln. I love his little kind of boyhood like pat on the leg here, like what a champ helped me out here. My pardons. It's very, very kind of very fatherly. It's really kind of nice.
It's like and the whole story with the boy laming his horse.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like what? It's like if I punished every boy for that, like there would be no 16-year-old boys left.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a very interesting. These are the moments I can kind of glom on to.
In times like this, I'm best alone. That's one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Sure.
Super relatable to me.
See, I like these scenes with Lincoln, like kind of the simple kind of personal scenes where I can just kind of glom onto who the man is and really bask in the performance. So when we do the big stuff and act, I really get a kick out.
Every Spielberg movie should just be like set piece after set piece, and I feel like well, this movie is maybe perhaps a little bit too much of an antithesis of that. I do think it works.
Yeah. So we have here's Adam Driver yet again as the telegraph operator. We have a honey of a scene with him with Lincoln. Where Lincoln with the big questions. Do we choose to be born? Are we fitted to the times? Like never Lincoln with a simple question.
That is a big trailer moment.
Yeah.
They use that clip in the trailer everywhere, and I swear to God, Adam Driver is just like immortalized because of that trailer.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Hey,
so, I will admit, I would definitely, considering that this movie is not exactly like epic in scale, it is more intimate. There's not like a huge story that they're telling. I do think that you could have cut some stuff out. I really do.
I mean, it's kind of like almost like a days in the life of Lincoln.
Right, and because of that, I really do think that maybe this movie would have benefited more from like, I don't want to say like an hour 45. That might have been a little short, but maybe 2 hours, or 2 hours.
It's a very minute could have been 2 hours for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually the regular Spielberg complaint. Like,
if it was a movie that was trying to capture the man's whole life, then obviously you would need more time than that. But this is clearly not a movie.
Well, what's funny?
To be to cover his whole life, you'd need like a mini series.
Exactly.
Now it's funny. The original version of this film, before they kind of happened upon the whole Team of Rivals thing, or at the very least, the Team of Rivals thing was always kind of, again, having bought the book rights, I'm sure is going to pull stuff from that book, which is comprised of 10 years of research from the lady. But originally, one of the versions was going to be Lincoln's friendship with Frederick Douglass.
Ooh. Huh.
So that was originally the version of the film before we kind of the whole 13th
Amendment. That would have been an entirely different movie altogether.
I would have been interested to see that movie, but I get the draw of like the last couple months of the important.
I think this is a much more compelling story. Yeah.
But it's kind of weird though. I mean,
that almost feels like kind of like a beautiful day in the neighborhood a little bit.
Yeah.
And I guess as much as people do praise this movie, pretty much a lot of people commented like, yeah, it should have ended a bit sooner.
We'll get to it with the ending, but I feel like I feel the same way about the ending to this movie as a lot of people do with like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
There is kind of a credits moment towards the third act. I feel like
there's a few credits moments.
Yeah.
And frankly, like, I understand. I don't know. I don't even really think you need to show his death. I don't like.
You're feeding into my credits moment right now.
Yeah, like I mean, I understand that that's like a like a big historical moment, obviously, and they do something clever with the play of it all.
I'm gonna have things to say on that scene, but we'll get there.
Fair enough. I think it's clever, but
I think it could have been clever, but we'll get there.
And I'll get to it too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I really don't think this movie is about Lincoln's death. It's about Lincoln's life.
No, I agree with you in that regard, yes.
So I don't know. I just feel like tacking on the sad ending, like almost it doesn't water down the message, but I almost feel like it's a needlessly pessimistic way to end the movie, if that makes sense.
Do you think Lincoln's not enough?
Would you say it's almost like the opposite of AI in a way?
What do you mean?
Like how a lot of the movie is like bleak and pessimistic, but then the end is like weirdly optimistic.
I mean,
AI.
I still think the end of AI is still kind of dark, but
I mean, it's still brighter than the rest of the movie, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I know AI is kind of like a weird comparison, especially compared to this. But it's just like the weird tonal shift and tonal
I don't think the tonal shifts in this movie are nearly as bad as AI.
I'm not saying
AI to me is like a textbook, just tonal whiplash kind of movie. Like AI is genuinely unpleasant for me.
I mean, we'll get into that some other time. And I mean, sorry for the tangent.
No, it's fine.
But it's just like that's like the first thing that popped in my head. But like upon watching reviews of old Spielberg's other movies.
I'll table my question for later because now we're on to the big legal, legal kind of equality for all races scene.
Mm-hmm.
This is huge. It's a big standout scene for Tommy Lee Jones, I feel.
Oh, if Tommy Lee Jones was nominated for an Oscar, this would be the clip they'd play.
Oh, absolutely. This is the big kind of worth your salt.
More like it's the scene they should have played.
Yes.
As we'll keep saying.
Yes, of course, him showing restraint for a greater calling here. Again, like not taking the bait. And we set this up earlier in a scene where like they're trying to get him to take the bait here. Like we're going to rally him up, make him look like a frothing dog, and then it'll be in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
And
so they're basically trying to use the Jack Nicholson A Few Good Men approach.
I mean, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I mean,
they're
trying to get him, basically they're trying to get him to become Jack Nicholson on the stand. Yeah, sure.
But he remains composed throughout the whole thing. He raises his voice, but he always commands the room.
Exactly.
Yeah, legally saying the right thing here. I believe in equality legally, not in terms of like racial equality. It says racial equality means okay, you're having a personal stake verers I
really liked the message of having to toe the line for a greater good and having to kind of like, because it's not just as squeaky clean sometimes. It's like being for or against something. Like a lot of times you gotta make those moves. You gotta maneuver in a way where it's very sociologically interesting to me in regards to politics like that.
It's a game of chess.
Right, exactly.
Like you don't move your most important piece until the right time.
I love Lee Pace just completely losing it. Like, well, just completely take it off his guard. Like, he's not supposed to say that. I'm not prepared for this.
Okay, can I just say this movie just has a plethora of glorious, like, redneck racist meltdowns, and I love it. Like, it's very satisfying on that level.
Yeah, it's like the whole equal thing. It's like basically I speak for equal everyone in terms of the law. Like, when I consider myself, you equal to me? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing saying he can't chew them.
Whenever rednecks are like freaking out about the bill getting passed, oh my God, I get such a.
And again, this is an answer to the Jolly scene from Act 1. The whole idea of like, hey, you're for the end of this thing, but not the whole racial implications.
Like we'll build to it, but like the big end point with this movie, the big courtroom scene at the end. I honestly get more pleasure in seeing the rednecks like react to what's going on than I do seeing the votes coming in. The votes coming in are great, but I just feel like the reactions are kind of what makes it so satisfying. It's like, go ahead.
No, go on. I'll say what I say after this.
Yeah, no, it's just it's such a real life palatable like ha 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 ha, fuck you, you're on the wrong side of history, fuckers.
And I was saying, and again. Ohio doesn't get the best representation here.
Yeah, I know, Jacob.
I mean, I'm not.
You know what? Your state has a ton of kick-ass roller coasters. Take that with you.
Yeah, it's like, well, they'll take what I can get, I guess.
And of course, the downside to this being, we kind of lost the the opportunity to make the big statement. But again, what power would the statement have if it just got shut down? It's it's almost like the McCarthy hearings. Like you say, there's no right answer sometimes.
Right, yeah.
Basically,
fall on deaf ears.
Basically, loaded questions.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have, like, as he walks out here, we have, after he walks out here, we're going to have Asa. Asa, that guy's such a prick in that scene. Just like, I feel so nauseated by what you did. You were the mecca of this cause, and you had a big moment, you squandered it. I'm sorry you feel nauseated.
I love that line. That's one of the many great Tommy Lee Jones burns in this movie.
The moral of the scene, the moral of the story in this section for students that sometimes you got to do ugly things to stop ugly acts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as he basically kind of says wonderfully in the scene too about like, the whole like, I'm sure the people who've been kind of slighted and enslaved are feeling nauseated too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Nausea
I mean,
is
this
going
guy
on
is
his
acting if Stevens has lost his soul. How fucking weird and reverse of a question is that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like, oh yeah, I actually got something done, but yeah, they yell at me a little bit. Yeah, chew my wig off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like even if it's in silhouette, you can recognize Lincoln by his hat.
Of course.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know that's just kind of an odd statement to make about an hour and a half into this movie, but
Well, yeah, it's either the hat or the beard. It's it's either the penny or the hat.
A lot of times in this movie, it's both.
yeah.
Okay, so let me speak to something here. So I got a problem with Bob and his father here. The plot line to me, because the father-son plot line's a little pointless in the grand scheme of things
Would
when
you
you really think
prefer
about it.
Would you prefer the War of the Worlds plot?
No.
Okay, good. All right, sorry.
Okay, well, I don't prefer either. Is what I'm saying. But I mean, anyway. So in the grand scheme, if you think about it, the father-son plot line's a little, the whole like enlistment thing is a little pointless, given that, I know that we know what's going to happen. We know, knowing what the ending is going to be, the war is going to be ending within, I mean, given our time span, let's just say estimate maybe 2 to 3 months, I guess. I mean, roughly, in like, the 4-month span of the film. And so the war is going to end, and we're doing this, the whole thing, I got to enlist, where, yeah, you're enlisting in a war that's about to end, just to say you were part of it. That's not exactly, I don't know if that's necessarily like, it's... I don't see why
I understand it a lot more than I do in War of the Worlds because of his stature, Dragon. Here's the thing about
I'm having trouble recalling what exactly the son's point when that movie in War of the Worlds was, if I'm being frank.
He didn't really have a point. He was just like, I've got to help, Dad! If I don't help, then I'm bad! You're holding me back!
Well, you're right. That's kind of the more watered-down version of this problem. Yeah. That's the worst version of this problem, but that's what I'm saying. They're still kind of drawing from the same well, which I don't think is great.
With the Robert Lincoln character, what I like about it, by the way, this is a fantastic fucking reveal.
It's a creepy...
You gotta admit that much.
Well, it disturbs me.
What?
No, the whole, like, limb thing.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But I feel the struggle with Robert Lincoln because of the fact that the most beloved man in the history of the country is his father, and he's got a lot to live up to. I feel his frustration in regards to, like, being in the law office is not what he wants to do, and he's Dragon, you got to understand, with the military, especially back then, it's like think about how... Dragon, I want you to think about how shamed people who draft the Dodge in World War II were.
Dodge the draft.
Like, amplify that by, 100. And that's what this guy was going through. And it wasn't even his own choice to draft the Dodge. It was his parents' choice. So, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah,
I mean, look.
I guess we should call them Abe, since they're technically both Lincoln. But Abe does bring up a really good point, and even to later, it's like, I'm the commander-in-chief, and without my permission, you're not doing anything. I mean, obviously, and he even says under his breath, he doesn't want to...
Frankly, that is a very frustrating, kind of dickish, fatherly thing to say. Like, a realistically dickish father thing to say.
But you can tell he's doing it because he just doesn't want to lose
slap.
Another...
Okay, what do we think of the slap, guys? What do we think of the slap?
Well, I love that he instantly regrets it. That's very telling. So that's a feather.
He tries to instantly rectify it, and obviously it's too late.
I think the solution's too perfect. It kind of renders the whole thing moot too, where it's like, yeah, just put him in the clerical position. It'll be fine. There's your winning solution. Why can't we just figure that out first? Why didn't we discuss that first? That's the thing that hurts this for me. Just knowing the results of these very really good compromises and the end point of the solutions makes me think, like, was it really worth it though?
All right. Well, here we go. Do you guys think Molly's reaction is justified here?
I mean, personally, no. But I mean, given the amicable solution.
Considering what the woman was going through, and considering she had mental health problems, considering she'd already lost not one but 2 children at this point.
You want to hear the sad irony of this scene, though? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm going to get this in there real quick, though. Sad irony, in real life, from what I heard, despite her fighting for Bobby and, like, don't send him into the war and everything, he committed her in the end.
Oh, man. Oh,
right?
God.
That's what I heard. I heard he committed her.
That's honestly really fucked. So Sally Fields in this scene is just like, I think this might be like, this is the best scene in the movie for me. The thunder, the lightning, the palatable tension. It's like, I don't know, man. Whenever I see this, I'm just like at the edge of my seat. It's the closest thing this movie has to a proper action scene.
I agree with you in that respect, and that, again, this is a very big landmark scene for her and everything. It's kind of the equivalent to the action. I mean, for me, though, it's like, I can respect what the scene's going for, and I just, it's... But again, the solution is too amicable for there to really be a dilemma here. And even if I don't really get why she's getting so torn up about it when, again, like, he's in a really safe position right now.
I literally just explained it to you.
I know you did, Tiki. I'm just voicing my... I know. I get that. That's what I'm saying. I like, maybe rightfully so she is... she's acting the way she is in this scene, but because she is unhinged, she's a little nutty. We've established
you
this.
cannot look at it from a logical perspective with this situation. Logic has nothing to do with it.
And I mean, I get the point. Like, marriage is complicated, and I like that we do represent that in the scene, though. And especially, I think the takeaway is that, especially when your husband is the president of the United States, when the world is on the shoulders of this guy.
When you respect what he's trying to do so much, but you can see the compromises and the cost of what he's trying to do.
That's what I'm mixed on the scene with. I think the emotions are there, but the logic kind of hurts it for me a bit. But again, I hear your point, though.
But it's like, what I like is, like, it paints as neither of them entirely in the wrong, though.
Yeah,
of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, don't speak to me about grief. It's like it brings me in mind a great phrase, like, people grieve in different ways. Like, you grieve your way, I grieve mine. Like, you would agree. People grieve quietly, others grieve in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I feel like this scene just, like, you get such a feeling of the history between these two, just kind of like the dark road that they've been down, and how it's like they still care for each other, but by the same time, man, they have dragged each other through the mud emotionally.
Yeah, I like that they do kind of balance each other out very well, and that Lincoln's really kept a tight lid on his emotions, where Mary Todd very, very vocal about it. They're very yin yang.
But I feel like Lincoln keeping the tight lid on his emotions is in some ways, like, that's one of the things that kind of like drew her away from him.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of an interesting push and pull effect.
And that internal stress is probably what aged his outward appearance.
Right.
Yeah, so this is going to be this is kind of an ironic way of phrasing it, but it must really suck going to the theater with the Lincolns. I mean, seriously, look at this scene. It's like I feel so bad for Elizabeth in this scene where she's like, man, I hate these guys are talking through the whole play. I'm sure the people down below on the stage aren't happy about it. You get a sense this happens often.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if we are going to do the assassination, then at the very least, I do appreciate the fact that they set up that they were avid theater goers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like that we tee up we teed up with the whole. There have been assassination attempts, and they go to the theater. So we set up the 2 points. So later on, the crossover is perfectly set up.
And obviously, this whole thing led to the real world. Dark humor joke. Lincoln is doing well in theaters despite historical evidence to the contrary.
Oh God!
I'm sure that's not the first time either of you two have heard that.
Nope. No, it isn't.
I'm more familiar with the tried and true. Besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show?
Oh God, yeah, I've heard that joke. All right, so again, I just want to highlight overall, like the aspect of the film. I love seeing Lincoln interact with black people in this movie. I really do. It's.
Well, I mean, specifically because it's like there's nothing to it. It's like it's a fascinating deep level of acting where it's like obviously nowadays, if you know, it's like unless the character is like inherently written to be racist, it's like obviously you're going to interact with a character, you know, like without prejudice, you know, just one-on-one, like human to human.
Well, I guess what I mean is historically we don't highlight it enough that, you know, Lincoln, you know, he was very down to earth with, again, what he was fighting.
So what I'm saying with Daniel Day-Lewis's performance here is that there's like multiple levels of method going on where it's like he is just being the regular, decent 21st century human in a world where that is like not yet socially acceptable, you know? I don't know. There's a lot of levels to it, man.
And he has this scene between him and Elizabeth here is a really good scene. Just Lincoln addressing, you know, the human experience, where, you know, you just need to get to know people. Like, you know, I don't know you, but, you know, I suspect, you know, we'd be able to get to know each other. Basically, you get to know people, superseding preconceived notions, which is the problem with the nation right now. Is essentially what he's saying, which is really good. It's really good. Again, it's very forward thinking, which again is what Lincoln's trying to fight for, and also what Stevens is all about. And later on, it's kind of a nice mystery. We know we have a great reveal of like, oh, this is why Stevens is very ardent about what he's fighting for,
right?
You know, with the wig scene, but yeah, we'll get there. Yeah,
and yeah, like I kind of illustrated with the cold open. I really do love how the whole movie is filled with it's not the whole movie, but throughout the movie, the film is filled with these like very, very intimate firsthand encounters of the man. And I feel like telling that story, like telling something so intimate, like what it was like to just encounter Lincoln, you know, to have a conversation with Lincoln, just something that simple, contrasted to something as epic as freeing the slaves. I don't know, man. Again, there's layers to that as far as storytelling goes to me.
All right, so I'd say around this point, probably the scene we just talked about onward is where the movie really starts to turn around for me. This is where things start to kind of come alive for me with the whole Lincoln's being very proactive right now. He's meeting with the lobbyists who are just kind of tasked at Lincoln's behest, where he's meeting with them, like Daniel Day-Lewis and James Spader, having some fun banter with like the really kind of very quiet president with his very kind of boisterous kind of lout. It's James Spader.
Yeah, and you know, Dre, like I said, I'm not arguing with you that it is a little too much setup. You know, I do think for the most part it's good setup, but it's, you know, I don't necessarily need all of it.
Sure. Yeah. Also, I love Stevens is about to have a bit come. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead because I don't want to miss it. I love Tommy Lee Jones is this great opening line. It's like, it opens, just has a great entrance.
It opens. That is a very I'm not gonna kiss you. That's
what I'm saying. It's a great Jonesism, you know, like it opens.
It opens.
I love Lincoln as a man of the people. I don't know, he's really, you know, homespun, kind of like, you know, he's gonna get things done. Lincoln getting things done.
I mean, one thing I love about that is like they're all just shooting crap about all that, and then like you have a visitor and like who cares, and then they realize. They were like, oh crap, it's Lincoln.
It's the guy in the hat who pays us.
Yeah. It's like, oh great, oh crap, it's Lincoln.
Yeah. I love it in the marketing from what I recall, like marketing has no hat stuff. Like barely to little to no like Lincoln in the hat for the marketing.
That's interesting.
At least from what I recall. I mean, like even like looking at the main image we have here, it's Lincoln without the hat. I'm saying that poster was everywhere.
They definitely went with the beard though.
No, how can you not? Has he ever not had the beard as while president?
While president, definitely not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Actually,
why would he not have the beard?
Wait, you talking about Lincoln?
Yeah.
Well, actually, early on, Lincoln did not have the beard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that is true.
But
like president though, did he not have it?
Like early on in his presidency, he did not have a beard. But like someone like a young girl or somebody wrote to him saying he should grow out his beard. And he grew out his beard.
I stand corrected. I apologize.
I don't remember the name, but I don't remember the name of the person or that wrote him, but that's what happened.
Okay, this is a fun scene with Kofroth here, and I want to talk about Boris McGiver here, if I'm pronouncing his name right. This guy, he was big on House of Cards. He was Tom Hammerschmidt, I believe his name was. He was like the reporter trying to nail Frank Underwood. It was like media. He was a great role, and also he was in the show Evil. He played, I believe, like it was like the Archdeacons. He's one of the guys of the cloth that was Mike Coulter's boss in that show. So yeah, he's this guy's good. We gave him like a fun kind of like his very it's a very subservient role here. It's very like very nervous guy, like Republican.
Yeah.
Very malleable role, very fun scene. Like your party was beaten. Like you can vote this way. Now get out of my office.
It's like, congratulations, you won. Get out.
Wonderful.
It's like, again, Steven's just owning everybody he talks to.
Yeah. Kofroth will vote yes, but he will remain Democrat.
Yeah.
Then again, the point here being, again, it's important to make an impact. You have to remain on your side to show that the action has weight. If you just switch sides, that's not going to matter. If you remain the same side and vote our way, that's going to affect change.
Yeah, that detail to me was kind of one of the biggest sort of light bulb moments for me in regards to being able to follow the political nature of this.
Again, it's like a political game of chess.
Right. And then Lincoln here basically pulling the lobbyist out of the fire here with like, okay, give me the names on the list. I'm going to go to them. I'm going to sway them because it's what I do. It's why my name's in the title. So he goes to Mr. Yeaman here. And Mr. Yeaman has a really interesting story. And then, of course, outside just the wonderful Strobar here, the idea is this guy, he wants to vote yes, but he is afraid of what's going to happen down the line when we come to the issues that Stevens cares about, like the vote and equality. He's worried about he wants the war to end, like any sane, rational person. But
he's basically thinking about reformation, which is very forward thinking of him because that was a major issue.
Yeah, and then of course, I love that Lincoln uses an anecdote about his father, likens it to you're fearful like my father was, but he
Spielberg Daddy Issues.
True,
but one that is actually most likely based on historical facts. So.
This is not exactly the same thing, but you could debate that the little saving Mr. Banks-esque with the kind of the climax of that movie, with the conversations about fathers and kind of like what to do next, based on the actions of those fathers.
He does think that he doesn't exactly have like the best relationship or fondness of his father, but he gained his love and compassion from other people, which he's thankful for.
Exactly.
But the spark of equality was was within his father. And
precisely.
So there is that.
Yeah. So it kind of shows like kind of a little bit of vulnerability and just kind of a likeness to the man, which I think definitely kind of frees him up to like, don't be afraid, Yeaman. Save the movie. You can do it, buddy. Earn that beard.
It'll be a very short movie if we don't.
He does have one of the more Lincoln-esque beards of any of the side characters.
You ever notice that Strolberg, sometimes in these biopics, he could actually play the lead character at times?
Yeah, this is an example. Yeah.
I'm also thinking of...
Hey, look at that, man. Look at that. That does look like an Abe Lincoln face.
You look at him here, or you look at him in Steve Jobs. He could absolutely play a good Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, haven't there already been like 2 Steve Jobs biopics?
Yeah. There's the Ashton Kutcher one, and there's
there was the good one and the bad one.
Well, that's the simple way of looking at it. Yeah.
The Fassbender one is the very good one.
It is the really good one. Yes.
I really like the Fassbender one. Is underrated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Fortunately, everyone's got a bad taste in their mouth because of the Kutcher one, because that has the very simple, very catchy name, Jobs.
Yeah, well, you know what? Does the Kutcher one have a fucking fascinating framing device?
Hey, you and I are on the same side of this. I'm just telling you why it's that way. Okay, this is an interesting scene here. The fact that this man does not believe in what his brother believes, but this man is a bigot, but his brother died for the cause.
Yeah, talk about moral ambiguity.
And he still votes no.
Yeah. But again, I love that Lincoln just shows him due respect, though. He honors his brother. It's very, very nice. Like, he pays his sympathies.
But I like he's not going to try and change his mind.
Of course not.
But the guy is opening up to what he is, and Lincoln, in a way, like he doesn't agree, but he accepts it.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a nice, quiet scene, like seeing Lincoln get it done.
That's what Lincoln
this
does.
sounds so simple, but I just get chills every time Daniel Day-Lewis puts on the hat and walks away.
I know, right? Okay, so this is the big money scene. Go on, yes.
You can almost say that half the movie is Daniel Day-Lewis walking away and putting on his hat.
I legitimately, yes.
Okay, this is the big money scene. I'm sure this is the scene they played during the Oscars for him.
I'm sure, yeah.
So here's the thing.
I would wager to say that argument with Mary Todd is even more intense, but
sure. Well, what I'm saying is, this is what I was looking for in the earlier scenes when Lincoln's kind of going on, like, kind of holding court in those earlier scenes where we're doing like the very kind of Last Supper framing very earlier on. I think this scene like has the power, it has the simplicity, and as it kind of, I believe, but the button at the end of the scene is like buzzard's guts, man, like just like calling them out. Like, it's a little more, it's very more.
It's kind of funny, that not funny, but interesting here that like Lincoln's just listening to these people go on and on until he just something like slams his hand on the table. Like even he has his breaking point.
Like he gets a little, again, Lincoln's been very even keeled this whole movie, but he gets finally gets angry, he gets incensed at the bluster of it all. I'm so tired of the bluster with it. This is the cure. Let's get this done. For pity's sake, the movie's long enough.
If you think about that, that itself is kind of Shakespearean in its acting. Like the build up until the eruption. That itself is very, very Shakespearean.
It's simple, direct, and to the point, though. That's what I really like about it. I think it's really, maybe ultimately that's what kind of grabs me more about this than the earlier parts of the film. I don't know, maybe. Plus, again, the powerful motions too, like just that. Again, like the quiet man in the room, like thuds on the table to get the attention. He's like pointing so hard, his glasses are like tossed like halfway across the table. And this is what really occurred to me on the rewatch. Like, there's just Jeremy Strong in this really impactful scene, just sitting there.
Yeah, he's just there. He's just chilling.
The arms are full. This is a really big scene, just sitting there in the background.
Is he the guy to the right of Lincoln?
Yes.
Yeah, he's just sitting there like. Yep, just watching him do his thing.
I know, that's what really occurred to me. He just sit there this whole movie.
Spielberg gave him.
It's like, okay, I'm going to have you sit over there.
Listen, Jeremy, I want you to bear witness to history, okay? Can you do that?
Man, listen, man, I'm going to sit over there and watch Daniel Day-Lewis earn his Oscars.
Oh, by the way,
I would consider it to be an honor to be in the same shot as Daniel Day-Lewis's Oscar moment.
I mean, I'm sure, I'm glad for that he was able to be there during that big moment, but I'm just saying, compared to like the entire movie, it's like maybe two lines, like Mr. Lincoln, someone's here for it. He's just like sitting there with his arms crossed.
Right.
So, one thing I want to note here is I completely forgot to mention earlier. Spielberg, this whole movie, as apropos to every other movie that he's ever done, from my understanding, Spielberg was in a suit every day of this movie, really? Instead of like the classic, baseball cap and the director gear. Because he wanted to look, he would have been the only one on set not in a suit had he not done that.
Oh, I see. That's funny.
Of all on the actors and everything, especially if they do like B-roll, everything's gonna look like crap on screen.
Yeah, it's like everybody's here dressed in suits, and I'm just like this. It's kind of nice. And of course, Stevens is the first one to show up.
I know, it's good. He's got to be there because it's all riding on what he believes in here. This was a classy move. I really loved the idea. I'd like to think this actually happened. I have no reason to doubt that actually. I mean, we bring I assume the former slaves, that were kind of being gathered here at the top, or at the very least, just the black vote, or at least the black, yet to get a vote, but it's kind of the gallery. I love that, kind of cheering on from one side of the audience, and the other side one says,
The audience kind of becomes like rival sports fans.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I love this. So this part of the movie is what grabs. This is where the intensity of your courtroom stuff really works. Where again, before it's like just it's the usual blood. I know it's not really a courtroom technically, but it's at least I don't think
Close,
so.
close enough.
Yeah, it's close. That's just the idea that here is like
Legal drama.
Sure, yeah, you're right about that. It's very legal drama. So I like that. Here it's they have the tensions very palpable, and like we've taken like all the general like House of Representatives bluster, which it usually is. We're all shouting over each other. We're unhappy. We're booing the guy speaking up front. Versus here, where when we do that, it has a lot more weight and a lot more merit because it's a yay or nay vote. Mm-hmm. After everyone kind of gives like a little recap of how they're feeling here, then we do like take the big vote.
And I do respect the fact, like I said, that we take the time. Like, there's no montaging here. We take the time to linger on every person's decision.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of holding off on this observation, but I do think it's very valid here. I've been kind of building to it here. I think the biggest magic trick that this movie pulls, like to me, the big feather in this movie's cap, absolutely comes at this moment, absolutely comes at this scene, writing wise, in regards to like, we are so invested in the slaves being freed that we are fucking biting our nails as the votes come in.
And we know what happens.
Obviously, we know what happens, yes.
We shouldn't be feeling tense at all, yet we do.
It's like the Titanic.
Yeah, it's the way that Spielberg directs it, man. It's great. And to me, that is kind of like, that kind of justifies the buildup, because we do get very emotionally invested in it through all the buildup. Is there too much buildup? Yeah, sure. But
I mean, I'd argue this scene, just think the preparation of that vote is so compelling. I can get into this without that buildup. To me, I don't know. It feels like it very engrossing. I think he did it that well. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the tension here postponed the vote. Now, that's a sign, like, again, that we don't know exactly historically how this thing, unless you have, like, the historians in the audience, mind you, but you don't know exactly. There might have been a postponement for the vote, which would have been bad, but, again, eventually the vote would have landed. Yes, there's your tension.
Chaos if that actually happened.
And that's where your tension comes in, where the audience, your general audience, is not going to know exactly how things went down.
Right, so it's like, honestly, Dragon, when they said postpone the vote, it was suspenseful to me, just in terms of, like, oh God, are we not even in Act 3 yet?
Because all we know is that Lincoln cares about this thing happening now. Postponement would be crushing to him. After the whole buzzard, man, we gotta get this done. Powerful man in the nation. I want this. I'm gonna have this. Okay, now this scene, I raise an eyebrow at. Okay, so look, why do so many have to go running to Lincoln here at the end of the day? Why can't it just be James Spader?
Because it's a little bit of levity.
And yet again, we're trying to get Jeremy Strong. He's running now, but he's not doing
anything. All right, like
it makes no sense. Why are they all running?
Funnily enough, it kind of reminds me of. I wonder if they called this scene "Catch Me If You Can."
Okay, come on, it's a little. That's not.
It's a Spielberg connection.
It's a weak sauce Spielberg connection.
That's also based on a true story.
I know. Look. I love that movie. I'm just saying it's a weak reference of that movie.
Hey, come on! It's a good. I thought it was a good reference.
I don't know. That's
not that great. It's that bad of a reference. They are chasing each other.
They're not chasing each other. Racing to Lincoln. There's no chase.
That's the person who himself brought up a reference or that like only one or two people will understand.
Do you even remember what the reference was?
All right, you guys are both pretty.
Well, all I'm saying is like you bring up like obscure references all the time.
Look, I'm not saying don't make a reference. I'm saying that's not one of your best references. I'm just saying what it is. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, I appreciate your thinking of the movie, though.
It's one of my favorite. It's not one of my favorite. It's definitely up there, at least in 2000 Spielberg. Anyway.
Love how Spielberg. So now you got me. Sorry, I love how Lincoln here.
Sorry.
I love how Lincoln here, basically with a very, again, it's not like All you need to do to save the day is write a letter, like write a little note.
Uh-huh.
And to do this, again, he's not going to write something that's going to be an outright like lie or anything just to get what he wants. He's going to write the truth, which is going to be possibly detrimental. It's a vague confirmation, which again we don't want vague confirmations. We want official confirmations. Darn it, but it's going to save the day.
Verbal confirmation.
One could say yes.
It's called basically the power of exact words.
Yep.
It's like I can't confirm or deny that they're here.
Exactly. Also, by the way, well, he's coming up. Never mind. Go on, Tiki.
Oh, I was going to say, what do we think of, I mean, I'm sure it's historically accurate, but I love how they portray it. The fact that Lincoln is very much not at the courthouse during this time. He is.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in there.
To me, that's like very realistic in terms of like, it's so much anxiety that is like the last place that he actually wants to be,
And the president really usually doesn't get involved.
Yeah, he's not the president's not supposed to be in there, really.
Oh, is he not? Okay, my bad.
I mean, he's not like to be very out of the ordinary if the president were there.
It's like part of the whole checks and balances.
Yeah, it's like
Gotcha,
this is like kind of Congress's playground, or essentially the House of Representatives' playground. Technically, I think it's the same thing, but I don't want to step on any legal toes. But.
So I do like how the movie frames that, though, like kind of like the dichotomy between Lincoln just kind of chilling at home, sort of trying to take his mind off things, and then just obviously like the courtroom, scramble that's going on.
He basically, while Lincoln's just like spending some much needed time with his youngest son.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, look at this clerk here. The weirdest thing with this clerk. This clerk, I don't know who the actor is, but I can tell you who he's not. He's McPherson. I think the character's name is. He's a dead ringer for Thomas Lennon in every way, but he's not Thomas Lennon. It just drives me crazy because he sounds like him. I thought it was makeup or something. He looks if Thomas Lennon put on like a little weight in the face, he'd be this guy, and he sounds just like him, but he's not. Sorry, little side note. But here's it. So all the tension, all the payoff, right here with the yeas and nays. And by the way, in case anyone's curious, so they're casting the votes here, and so to preserve the family's honors, all the nay votes are the names are changed. Oh. Everyone who said no was a name change. I assume, with the exception of probably Peter McRobbie's character. I assume. But that's a guess.
That's interesting.
But everyone else, every official no vote, not the guys who wavered, I guess, but every other no vote. It's again, we changed the names so the families wouldn't be burdened or hounded for some reason. I don't know who's going to really hound them after all these years, but just for safety's sake,
Well, you know how people react like, oh, your ancestors did something that means you're a terrible person.
Yeah, I think that's kind of nowadays that's gone the way of the dinosaur. Well, now it's a lot more like modern things. That's like going back not like centuries though. It's like
but still.
No, you're right.
I could still see certain people raising a problem with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But yeah.
Getting with that clock ticking, though.
Yeah.
And you're seeing all kinds of people's different perspectives on the voting.
Yep, and again, the tension is so palpable. It's great.
So it's kind of amazing that it even makes you wonder, oh, yeah, will the votes pass?
No, it does. Like I said, that genuinely is some Spielberg magic right there. How he manages to pull that off. Even
though you would obviously know that the answer is obviously yes, it will. But just the scene by itself, just builds and builds to its climax.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. Yemen here. Yemen's like, I say I, after he does it all quietly. I say I.
Like how Steve just kind of
and again, every time the racists get pissed, it's delicious. It's delicious.
Yeah.
And Steven's just looking at him like you better say yes. I said, I, Mr. McPherson. I.
Yeah. Look at them all patting him on the back and everything. Ah.
And that's when the naysayers are like, oh crap.
Yep.
We might actually. Because he was one of the tipping points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, now it all falls on the guy from Ohio.
Of course.
Yep. And again, I love like, you know what? Shoot me dead. I'm voting aye. Yes, I'm voting yes.
Ohio did get something good in there after all.
And this cracks me up. I completely forgot. But this is like a fun thing. Even if you know what happens, you don't expect this. This is hysterical. It's this guy next to him. Shoot me. He gets too brave. Like, shoot me dead too. Yes. And he goes, no. And they're like, no, I abstain. Abstention.
Yep.
Hilarious. Look at Big Fearson's like, oh, this guy.
He's like, I gotta put up with this.
Those Spader like, I can't watch anymore. Let's get out of here. These guys are nuts.
It's like, is he even in the movie after this? I forget.
I don't think so.
I literally just watched it and I can't believe I forget that.
I don't think so. Maybe like one celebratory shot if there's like a crowd shot, but not really.
Or maybe at his funeral, Lincoln's funeral, I guess.
Maybe. I don't think I saw him at the funeral. That's what I looked out for him for. Well, no, I'm thinking of the inauguration. Never mind. Yeah, the funeral, I have no idea. Wait, did we even get a funeral? Oh yeah, we got a funeral. Yeah.
No. The guy just stands up to go no.
Yeah. Well, they're all standing up, so yes and no.
Yeah.
This right here is like the closest we get to like montage territory where they're just kind of like cutting between them.
Well, we did have a montage earlier.
It'd be kind of like it'd be kind of much to show like every like all 156 or so ever votes. Like,
Sure.
Like they show like the tipping point.
Well, linger on the ones that matter though.
Yeah,
the ones that were previously established characters.
Yeah, we skipped the W because that gets us close to the Yemen and the other guy. Yeah.
Please call my even the speaker's getting in on this, which is
just hedging the bets here, which is nice. It's highly unusual, sir. It isn't usual, Mr. Pendleton. This is history. Now, Lois is there. How do you vote? Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Skylar Kovacs, the future vice president of, I believe, Ulysses Grant.
Funny how history works.
Yep.
Here we go. Of course, we cut away from the verdict, just the sustained. We all know how it's going to go. It's the same tension.
The artist story.
Tom's counting the votes. Does she have the vote count right?
Can you imagine? I'm just going to throw this out. Can you imagine if Spielberg went the Tarantino route in the negative?
Oh my God.
Well, we lost.
Oh,
Can you imagine how this movie would have performed if that happened? Can you imagine the articles in the papers like Spielberg had the guts?
I mean, it might have. It already grossed like $200 million, but who knows? It might have grossed more out of that. It might have grossed even more than that due to the fascination of that.
Listen, you gotta watch, buddy. Listen, you gotta watch this movie. I know you think you know how it's gonna get. Watch it to the end. There's like a big. You gotta watch it. You won't believe what happens.
It's like who knows?
Like rolling his eyes, like, oh yeah, let me guess. The bill doesn't get passed. Oh my God, the bill doesn't get passed. What do you know?
Like I said,
son of a gun.
The actual movie here. I love the chimes, the bell chimes with Lincoln. I love how when Lincoln finds out it passed, it's such an understated moment. It feels very appropriate for the character.
You know, especially considering how a lot of the movie he's framed in shadow. Here is he's bathed in the sunlight.
Love how everyone but Stevens really gets up. So
here's the thing, Dragon. Do you think we maybe should have just done a credits right here?
Not here. Well, okay. Well, hold on a second. Actually,
I mean, not here specifically, but like during the court. Like, do you think they should have been the climax?
Well, this is okay. I specifically think the credits moment would be just the hair after this, but it's this would not have been a bad place to do it because this is the end.
I'll tell you my credits moment later.
Well, my credits moment is it's in a scene later. It's a more Lincoln centric scene, which I think would have justified the title. But if this movie were more so like this movie retitle, let's just say, what the book title was. It was called like Team of Rivals. This is absolutely where you cut the credits off.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe the Tommy Lee Jones wig scene, maybe, but let's just say, the whole this crease thing
Tommy
is your
Lee
end.
Jones reveal is fucking beautiful.
It is. That's what I'm saying. It'd be hard to lose that, but let's just say,
Mhm.
for argument's sake, the crease thing for sure. I mean, between the crease and the bed scene, if this were like the Team of Rivals adaptation fully in title and everything, if this weren't like the Lincoln movie, it would be like, if this were the 13th Amendment movie, then yeah.
I feel like ending it here would almost be like the Bohemian Rhapsody ending.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the Bohemian Rhapsody had a solid ending, though. It was pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, the concert thing was cool, though, wasn't it?
The concert thing was well shot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was well shot. So,
I don't necessarily think it was the right ending for that movie, but
all right, fine. I'm saying, given that is the ending, it ends on kind of a cool note, being an ending to that. We're getting off topic anyway. So here's a reveal. Yes, we have seemingly the housemaid, the housekeeper, but a little bit more going on there.
Yeah, this is great, man. This is I love how this is like the biggest piece of character development for his whole character right at the very end.
Like, it basically points out, like, this is why he's fighting for this so hard.
It's like a perfect piece of the puzzle, I think. And of course, you get to see bald Tommy Lee Jones for the first time in the movie.
And to be quite frank, he doesn't even look really that terrible as he pointed out.
No, he doesn't, honestly.
No.
He actually pulls it off quite well.
Yeah, we reveal he's practically common law married to this.
And of course, the symbolism there is that he's kind of like shedding the uniform, shedding the costume, if you will.
Yeah, because back in the day, I know this isn't exactly a powder wig, but it's kind of along the same lines of you wear a wig to kind of fit in with the other kind of obsequious bigwigs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is who he is at his core. He's just a man, warts and all.
Right.
Although I love the whole that creased line was really good, by the way. It already passed. I'll return it creased but unharmed. It's a classy line to go out. If they end the movie there, it's like creased but unharmed, then go into this scene. Like, I don't know, that'd be pretty.
Just pan in on his face. God, it's like you feel so much pride.
I mean, if it was the Team of Rivals movie.
Yes.
I mean, he's just like, yeah, I did this. I helped do this. That was
me. Again, should have gotten an Oscar nomination.
Yep.
I think it's insane that he didn't at least get nominated, really.
We're sure he didn't get nominated, right? I'm pretty sure he didn't get nominated, but I don't know 100%.
I think they probably, I don't know if they even, he lobbied or they just didn't give it to him, but
I know he was at the Oscars, and obviously for Lincoln as in totals for the nomination, but I don't know.
I mean, Lincoln had already 12 Oscar nominations.
That's what I'm saying. There was 12. That's why I'm doubting myself. It was so many Oscar nominations. How does he not get one?
I mean, it's easy for those production Oscar nominations to build up in terms of number. I mean,
this movie only did win 2 with production design and obviously Daniel Day-Lewis as best actor.
So I got to tell you, on the rewatch, this is an interesting scene that's going on here between Lincoln and the vice president. Was it the vice president of the Confederacy or the president of the Confederacy?
Jefferson Davis is not in this movie. It's his VP.
Right. Gotcha. Nice. Oh, what's funny, though? Jefferson Davis, since he was name dropped later in the movie, I meant to mention this. It's kind of funny given Miles Morales' father's name, Jefferson Davis. Anyway. Side tangent. Anyway, okay, so back to this. So yeah, this is an interesting scene where basically the South is by proxy, the South is kind of lamenting over something we brought up in Amistad. Something that the idea that even back then, slavery was a valuable commodity and economically for the South and just kind of in general as a prospect. It was like free. It was free workmanship. It was like how we maintained farms and everything. It was the whole, now the courts are going to be bound up and they're going to be tied up with basically making sure this stuff because they're not going to go quietly. Things aren't going to go quietly, and just and also kind of the bluster of the shame and surrender for all this, and that's kind of what we're negotiating here. So it's an interesting scene, just kind of seeing kind of Lincoln look that in the face and deal with it, and basically say, sack up. Lincoln is dropping the hammer on slavery is done.
Basically, and even pointing out some of the southern states will join in too.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's built into the South's identity. In your opinion, it's done.
Oh yeah. Again, Jackie Earle Haley does a great job, and he has 2 scenes, but he's great.
He is.
I just think that I don't know. This is kind of where I lose.
No,
it
I
with the
agree
movie,
with you. We don't
honestly.
necessarily need this scene. I'm just saying there's some merit to it if you're just
There's
accepting what we
merit
have.
to it. I just feel like for every scene we get like this, where it's just kind of like a punctuation on the victory, it's kind of like, all right, we can get one or two, but like when we draw it out like nearly 20 minutes after the victory to the end of the movie, feels a little superfluous to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, to me, what we need in this kind of this aftermathy section, if you will, is for the full circle aspect of the movie. I like that we have Lincoln kind of going through the battlefield now with the dead soldiers, showing the time that passed and like basically what the whole thing he was trying to prevent was, and the guilt that was like if only it could have been done sooner, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, the scene with Grant. I love this. The scene with Grant is possibly my favorite scene in the movie, possibly.
This is kind of like the I could have saved more.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like basically those two scenes. That's lumping them into like one scene. You have that, and then you have the scene where I call credits, which follows that. So those are the scenes I need in terms of a Lincoln movie. But we'll get there. And I guess you make your own judgments once we get there. But
Like, yeah. It's just kind of like at this point, I'm already kind of checked out. If I'm being completely honest with you.
Well, again, it's a long movie, Tiki. Take it up with Michael Kahn. Don't take it up with me.
Okay. No, Michael Kahn.
I'm not checked out like as far as this commentary goes. I'm sorry, I should have referred. I'm just checked out like in general when I watch this movie. I'm just like, I get to a point where I'm like, okay, let's wrap this up and get home. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's real. I'm sorry, Jake. Go on.
So I think that was like most people when they reacted to the movie, like they said like. Great and everything, but it's probably 20 minutes. Like the 20-minute epilogue was a bit too much.
And people bitch and moan and complain and scream and cry so fucking much about Return of the King. You needed every one of those endings. I don't care.
Okay, so this is a really. I love the Williams.
It is a very haunting moment, Dragon. You're right about that.
But again, this is where that Williams score plays to really make that moment.
You think this is where it should have ended?
No, I'm saying that. Well, no, I'll tell you, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm saying this is one of the necessary scenes, basically this linking into that Grant scene, because Grant, again, being his predecessor, I think is an important scene to give him a moment together.
Yeah, sure. And just him looking around and seeing all the desolation and destruction. It's kind of like reminds me of a silent version of I could have done more. Yeah,
and it's a big moment, him taking off the hat in respect, in that moment. Of all the hat removals and placing on, I think is probably the most important of the hat removals. Just for a bit there. And also, just like the predecessor to this shot that makes it even more relevant is with the thing that we got with Jackie Earle Haley, is that essentially Earle Haley's point was it's real sick. Well, the point in that scene is that it's real sick that the South at that time, they would not concede to the civility of ending the war, and basically they would not admit to, hey, we civilly ended. Well, sorry, I know it sounds really a pun. We civilly ended this war, but we in a very like we agreed. We agreed to an ending, and we basically democracy ended this thing. But he just like, no, the Union was stronger. They won the war, and it's an insult to Lincoln with the body count that he just went through. Of like, really, you're not going to say that we solved things in a peaceful manner. You got to say you were outmanned. That's the only way you can take a surrender. Really,
right.
You can't just. It can't just be like, no, like we can't say you're wrong. You just got to say you were outplayed.
I understand that, but like I don't necessarily think dwelling on details like that.
No, you're right. We don't need that scene at all, Tiki. I agree with you. I'm just saying that like, I like how that kind of adds a little something to the scene I like. And this is the scene I really like, though. This scene between him and Grant.
And this is like the scene I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. You look 10 years older.
Yes, that is such a great line.
For sure. This scene is a major bookend.
Yeah, this is the scene I wouldn't want to lose, especially in a movie with him.
I would honestly just cut straight from The Wind to this, if I'm being frank.
I mean, I could. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Cut straight from the Tommy Lee Jones stuff. The bedside chat with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I agree. Just cut from that to him going like on the battlefield, which would bring him here.
Exactly.
I agree with you there. And so again, this whole 10-year observation is true of every president throughout history. Again, every time you leave office.
Oh, I remember Obama, man. Yeah. Obama just after his first term was striking.
Yeah, and I love just everything Grant's saying here. And again, a great actor. Jared Harris has always been a good actor in my book. So giving him this role, even if the American accent's maybe not all the way there, is a powerful performance of him just saying that, we won the war. It's your job to lead us out of the. Basically, it's your job to lead us out of the wars. Like a general saying that to you, and again, knowing that they're going to this job is eventually going to fall to him. It's a powerful moment.
It's kind of like him kind of ironically prophesizing what he's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a passing of the torch scene. It's really nice.
What's interesting, and what's also interesting about this is, like, you say the name Appomattox Courthouse, but they never mentions the name General Lee. They're like, yeah, you know who this is.
Exactly. And again, here's the Tiki. This is stuff we don't necessarily need, but it's a nice moment though, like the tipping of the hat between the two sides. We have Robbie Lincoln there to kind of bear witness.
Sure.
So this is good. I think this is not bad stuff at all. But you're right in terms of like stuff we could have trimmed. I mean, at least possibly.
You know me. I'm a big ending guy.
I know. I have my ending point's still coming up though. Even though I need that Grant scene, but that scene still predates.
And like I said, it's not that I don't respect ending with the death. It's just. That's not the movie. That's not the story. We
don't even end with the death. We end with the inauguration speech. So
right. Well, I feel like ending with the inauguration. That's actually a pretty decent end.
Yeah.
And end at the beginning.
But just lingering on the death. It's an awkward choice for me. It's an awkward choice.
I think there's an awkward choice made in getting there, but we'll hash that out once it comes. So this is not bad, though. I mean, again, this is a whole, giving Lincoln and Mary Todd kind of like a last kind of conversation that things are kind of on the mend, and she has a really – Sally Fields, I think this is the scene that really stands out to me almost in a weird way, almost more than the big scene, the big breakdown scene.
It is a great coming together, Dragon. It's quiet uptown of this movie.
Well, I mean, she has a really prolific line about that earlier scene here. Where
you really feel like how much Daniel Day-Lewis and Sally Fields have – bonded throughout this movie.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just this moment of the tragedy of Mary Todd is, as she calls out here, history is going to remember her as crazy and the crazy lady who ruined Abraham Lincoln's happiness. Which I love. That's basically Sally Field's goal, is to disprove that with the layers that she's brought to the role, and it's like a strong lesson to be learned. I think there's a strong lesson to be learned.
It's like we can see why some people might have had that interpretation of her, but we can also see that there's a much deeper, complex human being behind that.
And I like more so what it opens up. It's like there's a lesson to be learned by looking at the first lady of each presidency, by seeing the vulnerabilities and the reflections of such power in the women who have to carry that power, essentially, through their husbands.
Yeah.
It's
like we've been miserable for so long. It's like it's about time for some happiness, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously, unfortunately, we know what's coming.
Okay, so this is basically this scene with the end of him walking out is where I would call credits.
Yeah, I would
totally
agree. That'd be a perfect credit.
When he walks down a hallway, because we know what happens. We don't need to see what happens.
We know they're going to the theater.
He mentions they're going to the
to spell it out.
Yeah, like that was pretty much. That's also my ending. Like the moment of him just walking away, where Slade is just watching this legendary man with his top-hatted silhouette walking away into the distance. Like that's the ending.
Just the bit. Lincoln's last line in the movie would be a perfect line to go out on. Which I mean, I would say even supersedes the debatably could supersede that inauguration speech. In that he just says, "Time to go, but I'd rather stay." That's a perfect last line.
I know.
That again. There's the gloves. There's the gloves again.
yes. That glove bit was the one that really threw me off. I was like, wait, there's supposed to be some significance there, but I totally.
I'm gonna guess that when Lincoln died, was he wearing gloves when he died? Does anyone know? No. I mean, I know not when he died. When he went to the theater, I mean, I guess not. He's lost the gloves there. I don't know.
That answers your question.
Never mind. Okay, I was wrong. Seriously though, this is good though. With that glove, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna recontextualize. I'm watching right now. I think the gloves bit has to be. Lincoln just gave this guy some guff, but he's looking at the man with admiration. Like he's always ditching the gloves or doing something weird with the gloves. But you know what? God help me, I respect him. I love this guy.
It's like that just walking away That legendary man, no one like him before or since.
And the silhouette of that hat and everything, just the prolific man walking away.
Yeah.
There's work to be done. There's always work to be done. He had more to do, and it's just, just again, knowing that he's going to go to the theater. And again, time to go, but I'd rather say powerful way to end the movie, but we don't. And we have this scene. So here's my problem with this scene.
All right, talk about it. I think it's a clever little twist, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think it's the most tasteful thing in the world.
Yeah, it's instead of like most movies actually do show the assassination, but it's actually it is a kind of interesting twist to show show the historically accurate version of like his youngest son watching a different play.
Yeah, but here's what bugs me about it. Okay, so given that we've teased up, the visit to the theater very well in the movie up to this point, with Act 1 and Act 2, we have a really good tease at it and setting this up, and we have like a wonderful almost credits moment. So let's just say, accepting the movie that we have, we go to the theater any way you slice it. I'm not saying we needed to glorify the murder. I'm not saying we needed to do that. I'm not saying we need to see John Wilkes Booth or anything. But here's what the movie, it does almost so perfectly, but why did we have to change the venue? The idea of, let's play it from the theater, from the stage below. Like we hear almost like a bang sound in the performance. Why can't it just be, there's a bang you think is the play, and then the stage manager goes out and says the president's been shot. Why can't we do that instead of here's just very simple change. Let's make it the Ford Theater instead of just the coincidental, the son was also
Dragon,
watching
like I said, it's like, I don't really need to say this, but obviously they were going for you thought it was going to be the theater that was shot in, but
that's what I'm saying. What's the point at that juncture? Why not just have do exactly what you did?
Really
but have
quick, Daniel Day-Lewis literally spent all day in this position.
Oh yeah, I know. That's dedication. Crooked position, looks really uncomfortable. They made him up to look dead. But yeah, I don't know. I was just saying, what's the point in doing the miss? You know exactly what happens. Why change the theater? Why? I don't know.
I think it's probably just to stand out, basically.
I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot of build up to okay, so we're actually doing the Titanic moment,
and we could have been the Jaws of this movie, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, either that or it feels like as the Titanic, it's hey, it's we hit the iceberg, but we don't see the iceberg hit. We just we hear about it. We hear about, oh man, what was that shaking going on from up top?
Dragon, do you know if this scene is the first thing they shot in production order?
I mean, I don't know, but here's okay. I have a story though.
Surprise me because it's the youngest that we see Lincoln.
I think you might be right, but let me tell you something about this though. About just about Daniel Day-Lewis. So there was a really meaningful encounter on the last day Daniel Day-Lewis shot, probably after the death scene be a guess. But let's just say for reason, because Spielberg in the past has shot chronologically on the important parts at least. I mean, E.T. was shot completely chronologically.
Well, yeah, but the reason E.T. was shot
I know for the kids, but I'm saying perhaps if there was an emotional significance or the method actor giving maybe it's gonna be really weird if we kill off our method actor the first scene of the movie. Something like that. But let's just say for argument's sake. Anyway, so at the last day of shooting, whatever the last scene was, there was a meaningful encounter between Daniel Day-Lewis and Spielberg. That he'd been in character the whole movie. On the last day, at the end of the shoot, he called Spielberg into his dressing room, I think. He was dressing room or called him in somewhere to meet with him. And it was the first time since way before the start of the movie that Daniel Day-Lewis, the actor, spoke with Spielberg, and Spielberg had the feeling of loss though because he got to make a movie with Abraham Lincoln. He had the realization of this is what it's like to lose Lincoln because I'm never gonna hear Abraham Lincoln again.
That is so fucking heady, dude.
Right?
That is some Jim and Andy levels of heady.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a meaning. So that makes me think perhaps there was a bit of a chronology. I'd be really heady if the last thing they shot was the death, and then they did that. All
right. One other thing I want to get into to praise this film. I respect that. The ending's a little drawn out, yeah, but I respect the hell. This is one of the very, very, very few biopics I can think of that doesn't end with the text on the screen.
Yep.
I respect the hell out of that decision.
Because if we ended with him walking out of the hallway,
any more text on the screen, we get everything we need to get out of this movie from the film itself.
If we did end in that earlier scene of credits, then you would have needed the text on the screen, I'd argue. But with ending the way it did, though, you don't need the text.
I doubt even him just walking away would need the text because obviously all know what happens to him.
I mean, you're probably right. I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, we kind of cut the black and real natural way and just, like, maybe just, I don't know.
Okay, guys, final thoughts. All
All right, Jacob, what do you got?
Like I said, rewatching it was an interesting memory. It's still an interesting memory from my high school years. I honestly think it still holds up. I think it's part of the several historical dramas that Spielberg has directed. I think this is probably among the best of them, if you ask me. Like Tommy Lee, all the actors, Daniel Day-Lewis especially deserved the Oscar nomination he got and the win. Like it's still a very solid movie. I mean, not one that I'd watch all the time, but definitely one that's good. Was good to come back to, and I don't regret rewatching it. And I'll watch it again sometime in the future.
Dragon.
Ultimately, where I come down on is like, certainly this is not a Spielberg film I'd rewatch by choice necessarily. At least not really not often. But I don't think I'd go back to this by choice. I have like a vast Spielberg catalog. I will admit, after the subsequent rewatches, I said at the top of things, I like the film as much as I'm ever going to. Okay, I do. The bottom line is I'm not hanging on Lincoln's every word in a speech like I was, for comparison's sake, for like Anthony Hopkins as John Quincy Adams in Amistad, for example. It just feels. It feels a little like this is, again, as the comparison I'm kind of leading throughout the commentaries, it feels like this is like the Lincolnized version of a House of Cards, trying to get an amendment passed. Just the whole like the layout of the goal, like, okay, we're gonna have our lobbyists here, we're gonna get this passed, only without the shadiness, the intrigue of, oh, it's so shady, or the very, at the very least, focus on the man making it happen until Act 3, when I can really get involved in it, where I think all that stuff really is clicking together. It doesn't have, this doesn't have the teeth that story could have until Act 3. But look, at the end of the day, though, it's okay. I mean, Act 3, I think, is where all the muster is. It just doesn't stir in me the feelings of Spielberg's other historical works. Just, it's kind of an honest assessment for me personally. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Really quick, I really dig this film. I really do. I think it's a great payoff to a big passion project of Spielberg. Like, Daniel Day-Lewis's performance is iconic, but at the same time, I also feel like he's surrounded by iconic actors, and Tommy Lee Jones and Sally Fields arguably steal the show from him. So in that way, it's great. I'll totally admit it's a little overlong. It's a little over padded. The structure isn't the best. It's not the most clear-cut way to tell a story. I'll admit all those things, totally. But I just admire the hell out of it just because of the dedication, the authenticity, how quiet and thoughtful it is. It's a very, yeah.
Sorry, it's like it also doesn't talk down to its audience.
Sure. It's a very different kind of Spielberg movie, and at the end of the day, I really, really respect that about it.
Sorry.
All right, folks. Well, that'll do it for this historic season of Spielberg Month. We've only got a couple more Spielberg movies to go. Well, not a couple. We've got a little chunk left. I don't know exactly what we're going to get to next year, but we still have stuff like The Color Purple,
Sugarland Express, Duel.
Yeah, all the earlier stuff like Sugarland Express, Duel, Amblin. Of course, West Side Story will be out next year. We're going to have to get to The Post at some point, though I'm not particularly excited about that one. We're still plugging along. All right. So see y'all next year on Spielberg. Do 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 do. I'm Tommy Lee Jones. I'm riding my bike across the moon.